Chapter 156. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Chongqing's face turned cold. He picked up the bowl of medicine and gently fed Gu Yan the medicine. Gu Chongqing was the eldest brother. He had two younger brothers. Although he wasn't much older than them, his mother had passed away early and his stepmother had married him. His father only had eyes for his stepmother and her children. Some things couldn't be given by a servant, so he was experienced in taking care of his two younger brothers. Of course, Gu Yan was different from Gu Chengfeng and Gu Qinglin. He was too weak and had to be treated carefully, like a newborn kitten. In a daze, Gu Yan tasted something bitter. He pushed the spoon out with his tongue in disgust. He sprinkled a few drops of medicine on the back of Gu Chongqing's hand. Gu Chongqing wasn't angry. He sat down by the bed and helped Gu Yan up. He took a pillow and placed it behind his back. He scooped another spoonful of medicine and fed it to Gu Yan. Gu Yan turned his face away and tilted his head on the pillow. He didn't drink it. Gu Chongqing was very experienced in dealing with this kind of little thing. There were candied fruits on the table. He took one and fed it to Gu Yan's mouth. Gu Yan licked it. It was sweet. He opened his mouth to eat it, but Gu Chongqing reached out with the spoon and fed him the medicine. Gu Yan, who was caught off guard and fed a mouthful of medicine, widened his eyes. He was confused. When Gu Qinglin was young, Gu Chongqing also fed him medicine like this. He also had the same expression. However, to be honest, Gu Qinglin wasn't as cute as Gu Yan. Gu Yan had a high fever. His cheeks were red, and there was a tuft of hair on the top of his head. Gu Chongqing couldn't help but think of the silly roe deer he saw when he went hunting. In the future, he probably wouldn't be able to face a prey like the silly roe deer. Gu Yan was a little dazed from the fever. When he saw Gu Chongqing, he didn't react for a while and thought that he was dreaming. Then in a daze he was fed the medicine by Gu Chongqing. Gu Chongqing rewarded him with a candied fruit. He didn't eat it but held it in his hand. Gu Chongqing was puzzled. Why aren't you eating? Gu Yan felt wronged and said, if I wake up and the candied plums are still there, I'll know it's not a dream. He coughed so hard that his throat was hoarse. When he said those words, it was obvious that he had been wronged even without looking at his eyes. Was it because she hadn't come to see him recently? Gu Chongqing was speechless for a long time. You don't know anything yet. If one day you find out that I'm the big brother who neglected you, hated you, and allowed you to be bullied by others when you were young, you won't say that anymore. You wouldn't want to see me either. You wouldn't wait for me either. Gu Chongqing looked at Gu Yan again. Gu Yan had already fallen asleep on the pillow. He pulled the blanket over him and was about to leave. But as soon as he moved, he found that Gu Yan's hand was tightly tugging on his sleeve. Gu Chongqing stared at that hand for a long time. He sighed helplessly and sat back on the stool. That night, Gu Yan had a high fever. He had a heart condition and couldn't take any fever medicine. Gu Jiao put an ice pack on his forehead and took 2 blankets outside to freeze. When the blankets were frozen into ice blankets, she brought them into the room to wrap Gu Yan. Gu Yan didn't obediently wrap himself in the ice blanket. Gu Chongqing carried him and the blankets into his arms. This temperature was just right for Gu Yan. For a normal person, it was no different from hugging a large block of ice. Gu Chongqing was so cold that his lips turned white. At daybreak, Gu Yan's high fever finally went down and didn't return. Gu Chongqing dragged his numb body back to the Fu. Gu Yan was the most dangerous of the 3 children. If he was fine, then everyone else was fine. Yao Shi had come once and found out that the 3 children were sick. She was very worried, but she never had a pimple before. Gu Jiao didn't allow her to enter the room. Today Gu Jiao tidied up and decided to go to the Fu to tell Yao Shi that she was safe. Today's weather was good. There was no wind and the sun was very bright. It was very warm as it fell on her body. The servants in the Fu pretty much knew her identity and didn't dare stop her. She openly walked through the front door. Yao Shi's courtyard was really remote. She had to pass through the second door, walk through the waterside garden, and go around half the Fu. When Gu Jiao arrived at the waterside garden, She heard the melodious sound of a guqin coming from inside. It sounded very similar to the song that had disturbed her for half the afternoon at the medical center. But it was slightly smoother, and the sound of the guqin was purer. Elder sister Jinyu, you play really well. In a pavilion with rolling curtains, a young girl in pink looked at Gu Jinyu and praised him sincerely. Gu Jinyu stroked the strings and gently looked at the young girl. When you learn, you can also play very well. The young girl sighed. But how can I learn? Gu Jinyu smiled warmly. When you get into a girls' school, you'll be able to learn. The teachers at the girls' school are the best in the entire Zhao country. They're much better than the tutors you hire at home. The young girl hugged Gu Jinyu's arm and affectionately said, Then older cousin has to help me. Just now, she had called her elder sister Jinyu, but now she had changed. Gu Jinyu patted her hand. Don't worry. As long as you are willing to learn, I will definitely teach you well. Gu Jiao had no intention of eavesdropping on their conversation. It was too quiet here, and they didn't lower their voices at all. Gu Jiao recognized the young girl. She was called Ling Shuixian, old Madame Ling's grandniece. She was younger than her and Gu Yan by a month. She had come back to the Fu to stay for a long time. First, she wanted to be filial to old Madame Gu. Second, she wanted to ask Gu Jinyu for advice, hoping that she could help her pass the girls' school entrance exam after the new year. Old Madame Gu doted on this grandniece very much and had the idea of matchmaking her with Gu Chongqing, so she agreed to let her stay in the Fu. As for whether she could enter a girls' school, it was not within old Madame Gu's range of worries. But Gu Jinyu tutored her seriously, which was giving old Madame Gu face. Old Madame Gu was very pleased and liked Gu Jinyu even more. Who is that? Gu Jiao had no intention of befriending Ling Shuixian, but she could not stop Ling Shuixian from noticing Gu Jiao at a glance. There was no other way. Even if Gu Jiao did not rely on her face, her clear aura was too eye-catching. Gu Jinyu had someone raise the curtain and looked at Gu Jiao, saying, That is my older sister. Your older sister? Ling Shuixian frowned. Which older sister? How come I don't recognize her? Gu Jinyu smiled bitterly. Yenner's twin sister. Oh, her. Ling Shuixian suddenly realized. As the young miss of Marquis Ding and Fu, she had naturally heard of such important gossip. She had long been curious about what that older cousin who grew up in the countryside was like. Seeing her today, she was not disappointed. Too unruly. She doesn't even wear a veil when going out. She doesn't mind embarrassing the Marquis Fu by showing her face in public. Daughters of aristocratic families like them were very particular. For example, if she came to her uncle's manor and sat in the pavilion, she would have someone lower the curtain. This was the only way to not damage the girl's reputation. Gu Jinyu smiled. Younger cousin, don't say it like that. Older sister suffered a lot in the countryside. Showing her face in public is also forced by life. Ling Shuixian suddenly asked, Did she really feed pigs? Ah. Gu Jinyu was stunned. Ling Shuixian said in disdain. How dirty. Ling Shuixian did not dislike Gu Jiao. She just looked down on Gu Jiao. She had always looked down on Yao Shi. Yao Shi's child had been raised in the countryside for over 10 years. Who knew what kind of idiot had been raised? And that face, heavens, what a large birthmark. So ugly. Ling Shuixian mocked. I heard that she used to be an idiot? Is she still an idiot now? Gu Jinyu smiled. Older sister's idiocy has already been cured. Younger cousin, don't say such things in the future. Let's go greet older sister. Ling Shuixian said in disdain. I'm not going. If you want to go, you go. Gu Jinyu definitely had to go. With so many servants watching, she could not be rude to her older sister. She walked out of the pavilion and came in front of Gu Jiao. She affectionately called her older sister. Then introduced. That's younger cousin Shuixian. Older sister, do you want to come over and sit with us? No need. Gu Jiao refused. Gu Jinyu was not surprised at all, but still smiled and urged her to stay. Sitting for a while is fine. I'm not going. Gu Jiao still refused. Gu Jinyu lowered her eyes and lowered her voice. Then older sister, go ahead. Jinyu won't disturb older sister. Gu Jiao walked away. After taking a few steps, She seemed to have thought of something and turned back to look at Gu Jinyu. I'm going to see Madam. Do you want to come with me? This was the first time Gu Jiao had taken the initiative to invite Gu Jinyu. Gu Jinyu was stunned. The madam she was talking about must be her mother. Was that how she addressed her mother? Also, why did she suddenly invite her to come along? It was rare for her to take the initiative. Logic told Gu Jinyu that this was a great opportunity to repair their relationship. If her mother saw her together with her older sister, she would definitely be very happy. But this meant that she would have to abandon Ling Shuixian. Ling Shuixian was old Madame Gu's favorite. The three older brothers in the manor all doted on her. If she was on good terms with her, then old Madame Gu and her brothers would also see her in a different light. In the end, Gu Jinyu chose between Yao Shi and Ling Shuixian. Whether or not her mother coaxed her, she would still dote on her. Her brothers, on the other hand, needed her to constantly work hard. I'm sorry, older sister. I just promised younger cousin Shuixian that I would tutor her. When I'm done, I'll go find you and mother, she said with a sincere expression. Gu Jiao did not say anything and turned to leave. Gu Jinyu returned to the pavilion. Ling Shuixian asked, "What did you talk about with her for so long?" Gu Jinyu gently said, "She told me to go to mother's place. I was thinking that I would go after I tutor you." Ling Shuixian was very satisfied that Gu Jinyu had chosen her. Coincidentally, at this moment, old Madame Gu's trusted nanny came over with a food box. She bowed to the two of them. "Miss Gu, this is the medicine that you instructed the servants to brew for the heir. Do you think, should I deliver it for you, or do you want to deliver it personally?" Gu Chongqing was sick. He had always been in good health. However, for some reason he fell sick 3 days ago. Old Madame Gu immediately informed her maternal family to let Ling Shuixian stay in the manor. She said that it was to fulfill her filial piety, but in reality, she was looking for an opportunity to curry favor with Gu Chongqing. This medicine was not brewed under Miss Ling's instructions. It was prepared by old Madame Gu. The nanny's words were meant to remind Ling Shuixian to quickly take the medicine and take care of the heir. Ling Shuixian liked eldest cousin very much. How could she not understand old Madame Gu's arrangements? "Give it to me. I'll deliver it myself." She took the food box. After some thought, she said to Gu Jinyu, "Do you want to come with me to visit eldest brother?" Gu Jinyu's eyes lit up. Eldest brother had been sick for a few days. She had wanted to visit him for a long time, but she could not enter eldest brother's courtyard. Indeed, she had been right to reject Gu Jiao. The opportunity to please eldest brother had come so quickly. The two of them went to Gu Chongqing's courtyard. Unfortunately, Gu Chongqing had gone to the back of the mountain to practice his swordplay. When the old duke was still in the manor, he had never allowed him to slack off just because he was sick. He was an unlucky child who had to practice the horse stance and practice his swordplay even when he had a high fever. Ling Shuixian decided to wait for him in the courtyard. After waiting for a long time and not seeing Gu Chongqing return, Ling Shuixian gradually could not sit still. She began to wander around the courtyard. She was the cousin of the manor. Old Madam and the 3 young masters doted on her. The servants did not dare to say anything to her. They only reminded her not to go to the heir's study. But he might as well not have reminded her. Ling Shuixian just had to go. She had just entered when a loud bang came from the study. Gu Jinyu's expression changed. She quickly went to the study. "Cousin, are you okay?" In the courtyard, Yao Shi saw her daughter. She pulled her daughter's hand and sat down on the Kong bed in the warm room. "You've gotten thinner," she said with heartache. Taking care of 3 sick people, she did not eat or sleep well. Gu Jiao had indeed gotten thinner. "Are they okay?" Yao Shi asked. "They're fine," Gu Jiao replied. The 3 sick people were all alive and kicking, but they were still contagious. So Gu Jiao still had them stay at home. Yao Shi relaxed. "It's all thanks to you. Otherwise, with Yan Er's body, he would not have been able to survive this illness." Gu Yan's body was so weak that even a small cold could kill him, not to mention a pimple. Yao Shi understood that in a place that she could not see, her daughter had put in countless efforts to allow her son to have a body that was 10 times healthier than before. This time, her daughter must have put in a lot of effort to make her son recover so quickly. Gu Jiao wanted to say something but stopped. As the mother and daughter were talking, a young servant girl suddenly rushed in. Madam, eldest young miss, it's not good. Something happened to second young miss. Digression. Readers who did not win the prize could go to Sina Weibo, Xiaoxiang Bookstore official Weibo, Fangfang, and repost the Weibo of the lucky draw to win Dior lipstick, antique jewelry and little clear sky accessories. Good luck to everyone. **** Book title. Marrying the unparalleled wastrel prince, divine Dr. Consort as the trash prince of Nanzhao, Su Mo was sent to East Ming as a hostage for many years. The emperor of East Ming was very kind. Not only did he give Su Mo the title of prince, but he also arranged a marriage for him. After picking and choosing, it was decided that Guo Gongfu's legitimate daughter would be of noble birth. However, it was not the Mu family's eldest young miss who grew up in the capital. Instead, it was the Mu family's second young miss who had just been found in the countryside. Everyone said, "The village girl and the trash, a match made in heaven." Su Mo remembered that there was some history. The first time they met, the village girl fell from the sky and fell on him. On the night of the wedding, they negotiated amicably and happily became salted fish together. But gradually, things started to go awry. Su Mo. We agreed to be salted fish together, but you carried me to become a godly doctor. Mu Yuanqiu. How many aliases do you have? Show them all. Female lead true godly doctor versus male lead fake trash. Love before marriage. Clean body and mind. No misunderstanding. Causing trouble is serious, being funny is also serious. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964282/114464023. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 157. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels that cannot be found online will all be available here. What happened? Yaoshi asked. The servant girl anxiously said. Second young miss trespassed into the heir's study and broke the late madam's relic. Now second young master and third young master have both gone over. Third young master is clamoring to punish second young miss. To break the late madam's relic, the three stepson would probably fight Jinyu to the death. Yaoshi's head hurt. Does the old madam know? The servant girl shook her head. The old madam is resting. No one dares to wake her up. She should not know. Yaoshi decided to go take a look. I'll go with you. Gu Jiao said. No need. Wait for me here. No, you should go back first. Yaoshi did not wish for her daughter to be involved in the Marquis Fu's dispute. No matter. Gu Jiao said. It was lively. She had to go take a look. Basically, no one could argue against Gu Jiao's insistence. Yaoshi could only take her daughter to Gu Chongqing's courtyard. Gu Chongqing was still practicing his swordsmanship in the back mountain, and had not received any news. Only Gu Chengfeng and Gu Qinglin, who had heard the news, were in the courtyard. Yaoshi and Gu Jiao heard Gu Qinglin's roar from far away. You still dare to be stubborn? Did you do it on purpose? You actually broke my mother's relic. I didn't. Third brother, I really didn't. Believe me. I didn't break the vase. It was Gu Jinyu who anxiously refuted. Gu Qinglin chuckled. At the time, there was only you and cousin Shui Xian in the room. If it wasn't you, then was it cousin Shui Xian? Gu Qinglin actually did not dislike this stepsister, but he liked the Ling family's younger sister more. Of course he would believe Ling Shui Xian when he had to choose between the two younger sisters. When Yaoshi heard this, she roughly understood what was going on. She was no longer the weak punching bag from before. She calmed herself and walked into the courtyard with dignity. When Gu Jinyu saw her, he quickly walked over and said aggrievedly, "Mother, I didn't break Madam's vase. It wasn't me. When I went in, the vase was already broken." Ling Shuixian coldly snorted and said, "What do you mean it was already broken when you went in? Are you saying that I was the one who broke it? I already told you not to follow me and not to enter eldest cousin's study, but you didn't listen. Great, now he's in trouble." Gu Jinyu shook his head with tears in his eyes. "Mother, it really wasn't me." Yao Shi's head was about to explode. "What did mother remind you of? Why won't you listen to your mother?" Gu Jinyu cried. "I know I was wrong, but I really didn't break the vase." Of course she didn't break the vase. Gu Jiao had no doubt about this. In fact, this matter had already appeared in the miserable dream when he returned to his residence. The difference was that the victim was not Gu Jinyu, but herself in her dream. After she returned to the Marquis Fu, without the protection of her mother and younger brother, in order to better integrate into the Marquis Fu, she did not hesitate to spend a large sum of money to curry favor with her cousin Ling Shuixian. Ling Shuixian saw that she was so generous and could not bear to ignore her. In a moment of happiness, she brought her to Gu Changqing's courtyard. She originally thought that she could make friends with eldest brother, but who knew that before eldest brother, Ling Shuixian would first frame her. Ling Shuixian did not want to frame her from the start. She had accidentally broken something in the study and was afraid that Gu Changqing would hate her, so she lied and said that she was the one who broke it. Her situation then was the same as Gu Jinyu's situation now. No one believed her. However, in her dream, what Ling Shuixian had knocked over was not an ordinary relic, but the late madam's ashes. One could imagine the anger of Gu Changqing and the entire Marquis Fu. Even Marquis Gu, who was not in love with the late madam, felt that she was too much and his heart turned cold. Today, when she entered the Fu and saw Ling Shuixian, she thought of that dream. She had given Gu Jinyu a chance. It was Gu Jinyu who did not want it. Then who could she blame? Gu Jinyu regretted it. She really regretted it. If she had known earlier, she would have agreed to Gu Jiao's request to visit mother. This was great. Not only did she not curry favor with eldest brother, she also offended eldest brother, second brother and third brother. This cousin looked like a dog, but who knew that she would be so shameless? She was now a county princess personally conferred by His Majesty. Even if Gu Chengfeng and Gu Qinglin were angry, they would not dare to use the family law to serve her. But if this matter was spread, her reputation would not be good. She could not be the scapegoat. Yao Shi shielded Gu Jinyu behind her and looked calmly at Gu Chengfeng and Gu Qinglin, saying, "Who broke it? When the Marquis returns, I will have him carefully investigate." Jinyu is not only the daughter of Marquis Ding and Fu, she is also a county princess personally conferred by His Majesty. You cannot casually punish her. Gu Qinglin became unreasonable. He did not care if she was a county princess or not. He stood up from his wheelchair and rushed at Yao Shi with gritted teeth. Yao Shi protected Gu Jinyu in her arms. Gu Jiao calmly walked out and stood in front of Yao Shi. Gu Qinglin saw this familiar face, and the fear of being controlled by the little black room surged to his head. His entire body froze. Gu Chengfeng calmly glanced at his younger brother, and then looked at Gu Jiao. His gaze was deep. Gu Jiao calmly said, "Let's go." Gu Jinyu left with Yao Shi accompanying her. "The Marquis Fu is not fun at all. Cousin even slandered me. I will never come again." Ling Shuixian felt extremely guilty. She was afraid that she would be exposed by Gu Changqing's interrogation, so she quickly found an excuse to leave. Gu Changqing returned to his courtyard an hour later. He was sick and covered in sweat. His face was still pale, but his bearing had not decreased and his aura was as sharp as ever. What happened? He looked at his two younger brothers who were silent. Gu Qinglin exaggerated the story of how Gu Jinyu had broken the vase and framed Ling Shuixian. He was truly heartbroken. That was his mother's favorite vase when she was alive. He heard that he had even peed in it when he was young. His mother could not stop laughing at him. She hugged him and kissed him. Actually, he did not remember any of this. But every time he heard someone mention it, he would desperately imagine the scene in his mind. He felt that his mother was very gentle and doted on him. She was the best mother in the world. Gu Qinglin wiped his tears. He had not cried this much even when he had been beaten half to death by Gu Jiao. That was not mother's relic, Gu Chongqing said. Gu Qinglin was startled. Gu Chengfeng also looked strangely at his eldest brother. Gu Chongqing sighed. The vase you peed in was already buried with mother's cenotaph. How would I know that you would cry the next day looking for this vase? I had someone make a replica. Gu Qinglin. Damn it. He had cried for so long for nothing? But Gu Chongqing frowned. It was very strange. This vase was at the top of the cabinet. How did Ling Shuixian or Gu Jinyu find it? He entered the study. He sensed that something was wrong at a glance. On the table, the urn next to his mother's memorial tablet was missing. His heart trembled. He turned his head to look. Where the vase should have been was his mother's urn. Someone had come. His mother's urn had been swapped with the vase. If not, what had been knocked over in the afternoon would not have been a replica vase, but his mother's urn. Who came into my study? He called the servant. The servant said, only the two young masters and the two young ladies. It was not them. They did not even notice that the urn had been moved. Did someone know that the urn would be broken, so they moved it ahead of time? Gu Jiao and the other two returned to Yaoshi's courtyard. Gu Jinyu recalled the grievances she had suffered in eldest brother's courtyard. Her eyes reddened. Mother, you must believe me. I really did not touch eldest brother's things. I know that eldest brother's study cannot be casually entered. I only went in to take a look because I heard a strange sound. I was worried that something had happened to cousin. I did not expect that cousin would break the vase herself and then frame me. Yao Shi's expression was not good. What does it matter if you broke it or not? How many times have I told you not to go near your three brothers? Otherwise, you will have endless trouble. Has it come true now? Gu Jiao looked at the weeping Gu Jinyu with an indifferent expression. Yao Shi continued. If your older sister had not stopped him today, Gu Qinglin would have already attacked you. Why did you still foolishly go near them? Gu Jinyu felt wronged. They are my brothers, Yao Shi said seriously. You do not have an older brother. You only have a younger brother and an older sister. Although it was cruel to say this, how could those three not think the same? Yao Shi continued. In the future, do not interact with the Ling family anymore. The Ling family was the previous madam's maternal family. They were also very prejudiced and dissatisfied with their branch. Gu Jinyu said with tears in her eyes. It was grandmother who told me to teach cousin today. She glanced at Gu Jiao. If only elder sister had been with us just now, cousin would not have had a chance to slander me. Yao Shi said. How could your elder sister have been with you? She just entered the manor, and does not know the Ling family's young miss. Gu Jinyu sobbed as she said. Cousin wanted me to invite elder sister to sit in the pavilion. I went to call elder sister, but elder sister did not agree. Gu Jiao was speechless. Did she blame the earth for not being able to poop? When she called her to pay respects to Yao Shi, why did she not come with her? Also, why would Miss Ling be so kind as to call her? Gu Jiao could not be bothered to argue with her. She did not care what other people thought of her. She picked up her small basket and said, I'm leaving first. There were still 3 sick people at home. Yao Shi could not keep her. After she left, Yao Shi turned to look at Gu Jinyu. Her expression was very serious. How can you blame your elder sister for what happened today? What did your elder sister do wrong? Gu Jinyu was stunned. I did not. Yao Shi said sternly. Your elder sister has not used a single copper coin from the Marquis' estate. She has not eaten a single mouthful of rice from the Marquis' estate. It is not worthwhile for her to acknowledge any of the relatives in the Marquis' estate. Miss Ling called her. Of course she could refuse. Mother. Yao Shi had never used such a stern tone to speak to Gu Jinyu. In Gu Jinyu's eyes, Yao Shi was gentle and understanding. She was even a little weak. But now, Yao Shi was slowly becoming more unyielding. Yao Shi said, in the future, don't let me hear these words again. I won't allow you to slander your elder sister. Gu Jinyu did not feel as aggrieved as being slandered by others. Besides her younger brother, mother doted on her the most, right? But the person mother doted on the most now was her elder sister. Tell me, did she really do it? Yao Shi asked Nanny Fong after Gu Jinyu left. Nanny Fong had already found out that Miss Ling had fled in panic. It was obvious that she was guilty, but Nanny Fong did not say anything. She only sighed and said, "Sigh. How would I dare to make wild guesses? Even if it was second miss, it should be unintentional." She did it to curry favor with the heir. Yao Shi suddenly felt a little disappointed in this daughter of hers. Little Jing Kong finally realized that his hair had been shaved off. He burst into tears. He had kept his hair for more than half a year, and it was just about to be tied into a ponytail. But it was gone just like that. He had turned back into little bald head. He hugged his little bald head and sat on the threshold, crying his heart out. "My hair is gone. Bad brother-in-law, compensate my hair. Bad brother-in-law. Bad brother-in-law. Bad brother-in-law. Compensate my hair," Xiao Lulang said sternly. "You were the one who wanted me to shave it." Little Jing Kong cried and kicked his legs. I didn't. You're talking nonsense." Little Jing Kong was confused by the fever that night, and did not have any memory of it. Therefore, he firmly believed that he would never give up his beloved little hair. Bad brother-in-law must have been jealous of him, and shaved his hair, while he had a fever. Xiao Lulang spread his hands. "If you don't believe me, you can ask Jiao Jiao later." Gu Jiao came back. An adult and a child were looking at her at the door. Xiao Lulang leaned against the door frame helplessly, while little Jing Kong sat on the threshold, looking aggrieved. Gu Jiao could faintly feel the aura of a black cloud above her head. "What happened?" she asked. "Jiao Jiao." Little Jing Kong looked at her sadly. "Bad brother-in-law said that I was confused by the fever that night, and asked him to shave my hair. He also said that you were there, and you agreed, and you passed the razor to him. He was very sad, and his face was written all over. Jiao Jiao, how could you watch someone destroy my beloved little hair, and even pass me a razor? Are you still my beloved Jiao Jiao?" Gu Jiao took a deep breath and touched his poor little bald head. She turned to Xiao Lulang and said, "This is your fault. It's fine to shave it, but why did you put the blame on the child?" Xiao Lulang was speechless. Digression. The previous chapter was written in the middle of the night. There were too many bugs and it was not a good experience for everyone. I apologize here. I will pay more attention to the following chapters. Thank you for your tolerance and catching bugs. Bow. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/114460096. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 158. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found on the internet will be available here. Xiao Lulang. I've learned bad things from my great-aunt. Identification complete. This incident ended with Gu Jiao planting 3 kisses on little Jing Kong's head. Little Jing Kong didn't have time to be angry with his bad brother-in-law. He covered the kisses on his head with his little hands, and ran back to his room. He found a scarf and wrapped it around his head, waiting for the seeds to germinate. After the 3 of them completely recovered, they returned to Qinghe Academy and the Directorate of Education. Xiao Lulang and Gu Jiao had been on leave until now to take care of the 3 of them. Now they could finally return to normal. The old lady also moved back. The old chancellor was so moved that he cried. They finally moved away. He wouldn't be chased by people with knives and robbed of his private stash anymore. The old chancellor was an honest official. He had been an official for decades, but he didn't save much money. He almost lost it all because of the evil empress. How could he reason with her? Xiao Lulang had been on leave for many days, so he missed a lot of homework. He didn't worry about his homework, but he still had to make up for it. Besides, he was going to take the imperial examination in spring next year, so he was more nervous about his studies. Feng Lin and Lin Qingye were also going to take the imperial examination in spring next year, so they weren't confident. In order to let Xiao Lulang spend more time on his studies, Gu Jiao said that from today onwards, she would take care of little Jing Kong. Several children in little Jing Kong's class were infected with the pox. After asking around, they found out that the first one who showed symptoms was the transfer student, Qin Chiyu. Little Jing Kong must have been infected by him, and then passed it to his two older brothers. However, Qin Chiyu didn't recover as quickly as little Jing Kong. He was still on leave. Many children in class asked for leave, so they were released from school early. Little Jing Kong used to do his homework in the classroom after school, but now he went to the clinic to do his homework. When the Qinghe Academy was almost over, Gu Jiao would take him home. One day, little Jing Kong was doing his homework in the medical center. The second boss got a box of mutton milk cake from somewhere. After eating it, little Jing Kong exclaimed that it was delicious. Gu Jiao knew that it was fine for him to eat dairy products. Gu Jiao asked her second boss to buy fresh goat's milk for little Jing Kong. There was once when she bought too much. After cooking it for little Jing Kong, there was still half a pot left. Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan were not used to drinking it. It was a pity to throw it away. Gu Jiao thought for a moment, then added some tea leaves and sugar into the pot. After boiling it, a special fragrance of milk and tea was produced. When the daughters of the girls' school passed by the clinic, they were attracted by this special fragrance, and went in to ask what it was. Gu Jiao thought for a while and said, "Milk tea." Gu Jiao poured a few cups for them to try. Other than the bitter tea that was originally brewed, the daughters of the capital had only drunk buttered tea. The salty kind was quite tasty, but compared to this sweet milk tea, it was not worth mentioning at all. God, what kind of magical taste was this? It was so delicious. Is there any more? Is there any more? A daughter asked. Gu Jiao shook her head. There is no more milk tea for today. If you want to drink it, come over tomorrow. I'll make more. The next day, the clinic was full of people. The second boss, who came down from the wing room, was a little confused. Were there so many patients today? They were all daughters of the girls' school. What happened at the girls' school? They were not here to see a doctor. They were here to line up for milk tea. Gu Jiao sold the milk tea at a high price, but it was still in short supply. The popularity of the milk tea made the second boss dumbfounded. He had been running the clinic for so many years, but he never thought that he would suddenly rely on his side business to make money. However, the cooking method of milk tea was not complicated. After drinking it a few times, one would know how to make it. Soon, the shops nearby began to compete with each other. Some of the chefs in the daughters' residences also knew how to make milk tea. The business of the clinic soon became quiet. One day, little Jing Kong came to the clinic to do his homework again. He saw the second boss sighing at the side. He put down his pen and asked him, "Why are you sighing?" "Business is not good." The second boss had just tasted the sweetness of selling milk tea. The cost was low and the profit was high. At most, he could prepare a warm room for the daughters and burn a few more pots of charcoal. But after a few days, half of his business was taken away. The main reason was that the other party sold the milk tea at a low price. Their costs could not be reduced because Gu Jiao insisted on using good tea leaves. The second boss wrung his hands. "I'm so worried." Little Jing Kong decided to go on a field trip. "Jiao Jiao, I want to try it too." Children could not drink tea. Gu Jiao really only let him have a small taste. It tasted very good. Little Jing Kong's Jiao Jiao recipe was completely fine. Little Jing Kong put on a serious face and went to the warm room with his hands behind his back. He wanted to ask why the other girls did not come. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a girl from the girls' school lying on the table and crying. "What's wrong? Does your stomach hurt?" Little Jing Kong asked her. She felt wronged and said, "It's not my stomach. It's a headache." The homework given by the teacher was too difficult. She did not know how to do it. Little Jing Kong climbed onto the stool and looked at the girl's questions. It seemed that his parents had given him these questions before. Jiao Jiao knew how to do it. Little Jing Kong took the questions to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was brewing pills. Little Jing Kong raised the paper in his hand. Jiao Jiao, I don't know how to do the questions on this paper. Help me do it. I'll look at it myself after I'm done. Okay. Gu Jiao took Little Jing Kong's questions. They were all arithmetic questions. There were also a lot of arithmetic questions in the gifted class. The difficulty was not low. Gu Jiao did not suspect anything. She took a new piece of paper and wrote the answers for Little Jing Kong with a charcoal pencil. Little Jing Kong never copied the answers. He would write the answers after he understood them. If he did not know how to do it, he would do it a few more times. He had a good reputation, so Gu Jiao did not keep an eye on him. Little Jing Kong took the paper and answer sheet back to the room. Here, the answers. The girl did not believe that a child could get the answers. He must have drawn it himself. He could draw it even if he drew it himself. He did not even know where to fill in the blanks. The girl pursed her lips and copied the answers in resignation. The next day, when the homework was handed in, only 3 people got it all right. One was Gu Jinyu, one was Zhuang Yueshi, and the last one was her. The girl's surname was Yu. She also got in through the back door. She and Zhuang Mengdai took turns to compete for the last place in class. The teacher had never praised her like this before. Of course, she was not the kind of person who liked to eat alone. She immediately told her classmates about how she could solve the questions in the clinic next door. So that afternoon, the clinic, which had been empty for a few days, was full again. Little smarty Jing Kong walked out of the clinic with a heroic spirit, and looked at the competitors who were vainly trying to snatch the milk tea business from them. You can imitate Jiao Jiao's formula, but you can't imitate Jiao Jiao's IQ. Madame Yao had not seen her daughter and son for a few days. She missed them very much. Unfortunately, concubine Ling had been stripped of her power recently, so she had to manage the New Year's Eve. She was so busy that her feet did not touch the ground. She could not leave at all. Madam, people from the Yao family are here. Nanny Fong went into the room to report. Madame Yao put down the half-done paper and asked strangely, "Who are they?" Eldest master and sister Xian. It was Yao Yuan and Yao Xian. Yao Yuan was Madame Yao's older brother, and Yao Xian was his daughter. Ever since Madame Yao moved to the hot spring villa, she had not seen the Yao family for 10 years. Yao Yuan had changed a lot. He had experienced a lot. He was clearly younger than Marquis Gu by a few years, but he looked older than him. Yao Xian had grown into a slender and elegant woman. She looked a bit like Madame Yao and could be considered a beauty. In comparison, Madame Yao's appearance had not changed much. She was still beautiful, but her temperament had become more capable and steady. Yao Yuan was so excited that he could not speak. "Eldest brother, come in and sit." Madame Yao brought her eldest brother and Yao Xian to a warm room, and had the servants serve tea and snacks. "You can all leave. Nanny Fong, stay." "Yes." The maidservants left in a single file. Nanny Fong wiped her tears. It was clear that she was crying tears of joy. She was Madame Yao's attendant, and came from the Yao family. Sister Fong also did not change. Yao Yuan said with a smile. "This servant is old." Nanny Fong choked. Madame Yao's gaze landed behind Yao Yuan. She was a little uneasy girl. She warmly said, "Sister Xian is already so old. I remember that when I left, she was still a little girl. She should be of marriageable age soon, right?" Yao Xian did not dare to speak. Yuan turned around and tugged at her. "Aunt is asking you a question." Yao Xian said shyly. "She will be of marriageable age after spring." Madame Yao waved at her. "Come and sit. Eat something." Yao Xian turned around to look at her father. Seeing Yao Yuan nod, she carefully walked to Madame Yao's side. She sat down and picked up a snack that Madame Yao handed over and ate it carefully. It was Yao Xian's first time coming to the Marquis Fu. In the 10 years that Madame Yao was not in the Fu, the Yao family did not visit. They only sent some things to Gu Jinyu during festivals. Marquis Gu would have people send gifts to the Yao family in return. Yao Xian felt that the Marquis Fu was really big. Aunt's courtyard was really grand. The snacks were also exquisite. The Yao family chef could not make them. "Aunt, is Sister Jinyu here?" Yao Xian asked. Madame Yao said. She went to the girls' school and is not in the Fu. Oh. Yao Xian was very envious. She also wanted to go to school, but her grandmother and parents only allowed her brother to go to school. Madame Yao looked at Granny Fong. Granny Fong, bring Sister Xian to walk around the garden. Marquis Ding and Fu's scenery was one of the best in the capital. Moreover, she understood that this eldest brother had something to say to her. Yes. Madam. Young miss, please come with me. Granny Fong led Yao Xian out of the yard. There was no one else in the room. Madame Yao no longer put on a warm and welcoming appearance. She faintly asked, Eldest brother suddenly came to find me. Is something the matter? Yao Yuan opened his mouth and dryly laughed, saying, I just came to see you. You returned to the capital and did not visit your maternal family. You did not send any news to your maternal family about Jinyu's marriageable age ceremony. They all said that you disliked the Yao family for losing face. I know that is not the case. Younger sister, are you still blaming us for what happened in the past? Madame Yao drank a mouthful of tea. Eldest brother should not bring up the matters of the past. Why I did not return to the Yao family, and did not allow the Yao family to attend Jinyu's marriageable age ceremony. Eldest brother should know better than anyone else. Just treat it as me looking down on the Yao family. Yao Yuan bitterly said. In the past we were in the wrong. We should not have broken up your good marriage and married you into the Marquis Fu. Before Madame Yao married Marquis Gu, she actually had an engagement. The other party's family was not as well off as Marquis Ding and Fu. Thus, when Marquis Gu came to ask for a marriage, the Yao family did not say anything and cancelled the engagement. They did not dare tell Marquis Gu about this matter. They also did not allow Madame Yao to say anything. Yao Yuan knew that his younger sister had nearly eloped with that person. It was he who personally caught his younger sister. He even had someone break that man's leg. Yao Yuan, father and mother did it for the Yao family. Madame Yao. It's a pity that you did not expect that I would not help the Yao family. You married a daughter over for nothing. Yao Yuan choked. That's right. After his younger sister married, she immediately drew a clear line with her maternal family. Even father did not get to see his younger sister one last time before he died. However, this could not be blamed on his younger sister, who told his younger sister to be in the residence and not be able to rush back to the capital. He blamed himself and said, Younger sister, everything that happened in the past was eldest brother's fault. Eldest brother did not protect you and did not stand on your side against father and mother. If you want to blame someone, blame eldest brother. If there was anyone in the Yao family that could speak with Madame Yao, it should be Yao Yuan. Yao Yuan doted on this younger sister very much. The reason he broke up the Mandarin ducks was not to extract any benefits from Madame Yao. It was just that he felt that man was not worthy of his younger sister. He thought that after his younger sister married into the Marquis Fu, she would become a person above others. However, he did not know that he had personally pushed his younger sister into the fire pit. He sadly said. Father was filled with regret on his deathbed. He told me that if there was a day that I could see younger sister, I would definitely apologize on his behalf. There is also mother. She also knows that she was wrong in the past. She has already changed. Can you forgive her? Her body is not very good. I fear that she does not have much time left. Senior servant Fong took Yao Xian around the Marquis Fu. Yao Xian opened her eyes. She knew that her aunt had married into a large family, but she did not expect it to be so old. When Yao Xian returned to Madame Yao's courtyard, Yao Yuan got up and said goodbye. Madame Yao had people prepare gifts for them. She gave Yao Xian a pair of ruby stone noodles. Yao Xian liked it very much. However, she was rejected by Yao Yuan. He did not come to ask for anything. He sincerely came to ask for his younger sister's forgiveness. After the two left, Madame Yao sat by the window and sighed. Senior servant Fong, do you think I should go back? Senior servant Fong comforted her. How can there be an unresolvable hatred between mother and daughter? Before the old lady died, she wanted to see the two children. You should take eldest miss and little Gongzi to see her for the last time. She is not only your mother, but also the grandmother of eldest miss and little Gongzi. She first went to the medical hall to ask Gu Jiao. I am not forcing you to recognize a grandmother. I heard that she is about to die. Your medical skills are excellent, so I hope that you can go and take a look at her. Gu Jiao did not have any objections. Gu Yan did not have classes tomorrow, so he could go. Madame Yao waited until the girls' school ended before asking Gu Jinyu. She knew that Gu Jinyu also did not have classes tomorrow. However, Gu Jinyu said apologetically, Mother, I promised Consort Shu that I would go to the palace to see her tomorrow. Can I go see grandmother another day? Another day would be after the new year. Madame Yao wanted to say that she went to Consort Shu's place every few days, so it was fine if she did not go once. However, before she could speak, she heard Gu Jinyu obediently say, Mother, why don't you go first? I will go to the palace to pay respects to Aunt before going. Digression. 1996, just 4 votes away from reaching 2000. Asterisk in addition, yesterday's lottery digression did not appear in the bookstore. It will be posted again today. Readers who did not win on the app can go to Sina Weibo, Xiaoxiang Bookstore Official Weibo, Fangfang, and repost the lottery to win Dior lipstick, antique jewelry, and Little Jing Kong accessories. Good luck to everyone. _. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that cannot be found online will be available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896422826/114429380. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 159. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more interesting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be available here. Since she said so, Yaoshe couldn't force her. The next day, Yaoshe came to Baishui Alley early to pick up Gu Jiao and Gu Yan. Little Jing Kong also wanted to go. The main reason was that he wanted to be with Jiao Jiao. It was rare for him to have a day off. Yaoshe had already treated Little Jing Kong as her own child, so she happily brought him along. The whole family sat in the Marquise Manor's horse carriage, and the horses galloped. Little Jing Kong was very excited. He sat next to Gu Jiao and shook his head. You're so happy? Gu Jiao asked him. Little Jing Kong shook his short legs and tilted his head. This is my first time visiting relatives. Hearing this, the people in the carriage were stunned. The little monk had always lived in the temple, and had never visited relatives. Although he and Gu Jiao had a family after they left the mountain, they still didn't have any relatives that they could visit. Little Jing Kong was very smart and did things in an orderly manner, causing Gu Jiao and the others to rarely treat him as an ordinary child. It was also at this moment that Gu Jiao realized that Little Jing Kong had always wanted to integrate into the life of a normal person, just like the other children in the village. Gu Jiao looked at the little guy's expectant eyes and patted his little bald head. But I don't have any hair. Will grandmother not like me? Little Jing Kong's way of addressing his family was similar to Gu Jiao's. As long as Gu Jiao acknowledged it, he would call them that. Although Gu Jiao had never called Yaoshe mother, she was willing to be close to her. Little Jing Kong could feel it, so he was also very close to Yaoshe. Yaoshe said that when she went to visit her maternal grandmother today, Little Jing Kong had specially observed Gu Jiao's expression. She did not have any taboos when addressing her maternal grandmother, so Little Jing Kong guessed that he could address her as such. Yaoshe warmly said, No, Little Jing Kong is just as cute without hair. Little Jing Kong said proudly, I think I'm cute too. The corner of Gu Yan's mouth twitched. He took the tiger head hat and covered his little head. Put on the hat. Aren't you afraid of the cold? Little Jing Kong was furious. You're just jealous that I'm younger and cuter than you. Gu Yan chuckled. You're cute. I think you're just pitiful because no one loves you. Little Jing Kong put his hands on his hips and stomped his feet. Of course not. I'm kiki ai. The two of them bickered and soon arrived at Yao Manor. It was Gu Yan's first time visiting his maternal grandfather's home. Although Yao sure had disagreements with her maternal family, she had never shown it in front of Gu Yan. Therefore, Gu Yan's impression of the Yao family wasn't bad. Due to Little Clear Sky's encouragement, he even had a faint trace of anticipation for this trip to visit his relatives. Yao sure had sent someone to inform her maternal family last night. Early in the morning, Yao Yuan and his wife, Madame He, were waiting at the door. The weather was cold, and the two of them were shivering with hot water in their hands. When they finally saw the carriage coming, they hurriedly walked forward without waiting for the carriage to stop. Yao Yuan excitedly said, "Younger sister." After the carriage stopped, senior servant Fong came down first and helped Yao Shi down. Yao Shi greeted her older brother and sister-in-law, then looked at the carriage. In the carriage, a little bean jumped down first. Yao Yuan and Madame He were stunned. Then Gu Jiao and Gu Yan came down one by one. Everyone present could guess that Gu Jiao and Gu Yan were Yao Shi's twins, but that cute little bean, it couldn't be Yao Shi's second child, right? Yao Yuan looked at his younger sister. Yao Shi called little Jing Kong over. "Jing Kong, greet eldest uncle and eldest aunt." Little Jing Kong called out crisply, "Eldest uncle, eldest aunt." Madame He was a little confused. This was her younger sister-in-law's second child? Yao Yuan had chatted with Madame Yao yesterday and knew that this should be the child Jiao Jiao adopted from the mountains. His name was Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong is so obedient. Yao Yuan praised little Jing Kong. Madame He was immersed in the great shock of seeing Madame Yao. She was only 3 years older than Madame Yao. Both of them used to be delicate and beautiful beauties. In a flash, more than 10 years had passed. Madame Yao was still charming and didn't show many signs of aging, but Madame He's face was already wrinkled. Time seemed to only affect the people around her. Of course, Madame He cared about Madame Yao the most. After seeing Madame Yao, she felt inferior. Only then did she seriously look at Madame Yao's children. Little Jing Kong had already run to the front to look at the stone lion at the door. Madame He's gaze landed on Gu Yan and Gu Jiao. Gu Yan had inherited Marquis Gu's good looks and was as pure as jade. As for Gu Jiao, Madame He looked at the birthmark on her face and awkwardly opened her mouth. "This is Jinyu?" Madame Yao said, "It's Jiao Jiao." Yesterday, when Yao Yuan went to the Marquis Fu, he already knew that the two daughters were swapped. He also knew that Gu Jiao still hadn't returned to the manor, and was still living in a small residence outside the manor. A trace of disappointment flashed across Madame He's eyes. She looked in the direction of the carriage. "Jinyu didn't come?" Madame Yao's brows furrowed. Jinyu, the one standing in front of her was Jiao Jiao. Couldn't she greet Jiao Jiao first? Gu Jiao was very calm. She didn't greet Madame He and directly walked past her to catch up with little Jing Kong, who was looking at the stone lion in front. Yao Yuan glared at Madame He. Madame He pursed her lips. What was wrong with asking? He didn't come, but she wasn't allowed to ask? Madame He looked at Gu Yan and smiled. "This is Yan right?" Gu Yan haha. Ignoring her older sister, he also ignored her. Gu Yan didn't even look at Madame He and strode forward to find Gu Jiao and little Jing Kong. Yao Yuan and Madame He were extremely embarrassed. Yao Yuan didn't care about the difference in treatment, but he didn't expect his wife to have such a reaction. He awkwardly cleared his throat and said to Madame Yao, "Mother is in the room. Younger sister, quickly go in and see her." Madame Yao stepped into the house. Madame He walked beside her and didn't forget to ask her with a smile, "Younger sister, why didn't Jinyu come?" Madame Yao stopped in her tracks. She entered the palace. Madame He was dumbfounded. "Jinyu is really amazing. He can enter the palace." Madame Yao didn't want to pay attention to this sister-in-law, but she didn't come to see her sister-in-law today. They went to old Madame Yao's courtyard. Old Madame Yao was sitting on the Kong in the east room. It was different from what Yao Yuan said. Her face was really pale, but it didn't look like she was dying. Madame Yao frowned again and turned to look at Yao Yuan. Yao Yuan lowered his head. Old Madame Yao said in a deep voice, "Don't look at him. I asked him to call you over. If I didn't say that, would you come back? When you married into the Marquis's house, You didn't say anything and cut off all contact with the Yao family. I followed you. What? More than 10 years have passed. Isn't it enough to appease your anger? I'm already so old. I don't know how many days I have left. What's wrong with me wanting to see my two precious grandsons? Can't I see them? This matter made people uncomfortable. But when Madame Yao heard that she wanted to see the twins, she was not so angry. Madame Yao called the 3 children in. The first one to come in was Gu Yan. When old Madame Yao saw Gu Yan, her turbid eyes suddenly brightened. She reached out her hand to Gu Yan. Yenner? Are you Yenna? Quick. Come to grandmama. Let grandmother see you. Gu Yan saw that she really liked him. He hesitated and walked over. Old Madame Yao was so excited that her hands were shaking. She held Gu Yan's hand with one hand and touched Gu Yan's face with the other hand. Grandmother finally sees you. You look like your father. Gu Yan was not liked by old Madame Gu in the Marquis's house. In contrast, old Madame Yao's love made people feel warm. Call me grandmother, old Madame Yao said. Gu Yan hesitated. When he was about to call grandmother, Gu Jiao came in with little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong tilted his head and looked at the old woman on the arhut bed. He asked cutely, "Is it grandmother?" Old Madame Yao was stunned. Yao Yuan leaned over and explained in her ear. Jiao Jiao adopted a little monk on the mountain. His name is Jing Kong. I mentioned him to you yesterday. Old Madame Yao heard about the 2 children's background and Gu Jiao's situation from her son. Since this little guy was Jing Kong, then the one holding his hand should be Gu Jiao. After all, he was Madame Yao's biological child. Old Madame Yao didn't dislike him. But she also looked behind them like Madame He and asked, "Where is Jinyu? Why didn't she come?" Jinyu came to the palace. Madame He came in with a smile and said proudly. Madame Yao said, "She will come after greeting Imperial concubine Shu." Gu Jiao noticed the disappointment in old Madame Yao's eyes. But old Madame Yao didn't neglect Gu Jiao and little Jing Kong. She looked at Gu Jiao and little Jing Kong kindly. "You are good children. Come here." Little Jing Kong held Jiao Jiao's hand and walked over. Little Jing Kong called grandmother and stretched out his little head to allow grandmother to touch his little bald head. Gu Jiao didn't call anyone. Yao Yuan explained in a low voice. Jiao Jiao just recognized his little sister. He is introverted. It's okay. Old Madame Yao smiled gently. Yao Shi looked at her mother who was holding a bowl of water. She finally believed what her brother said to her yesterday. Her mother really repented. She wouldn't treat her son as a treasure like before. Her daughter was something that could be sacrificed for the family at any time. But Yao Shi didn't know that she was happy too early. Old Madame Yao's bowl of water was held for her to see. After several people went out, there was only Gu Yan left in the room. Old Madame Yao asked a maid to bring a big box. She opened it and took out a big and red persimmon. She handed it to Gu Yan and said, "This is the persimmon king that your uncle spent a lot of money to buy from someone. Grandmother specially kept it for you. Try it." "Only one?" Gu Yan asked. Old Madame Yao was stunned. Gu Yan said, "Then I will keep it for Jie and little Jing Kong." "They have it. It's yours." Old Madame Yao called a maid in the room and handed the box to her. "The persimmons that Di Yi brought yesterday. Pick 2 of the biggest persimmons and give them to Jiao Jiao and that child." When Gu Yan heard that grandmother didn't call little Jing Kong's name, he unconsciously frowned. "I am going to find mother." He found an excuse to go out. But he didn't find Yao Shi. Instead, he went to the small garden where little Jing Kong played. Little Jing Kong was happily making snowmen on the ground. Gu Jiao was watching him. The maid in old Madame Yao's yard brought 2 persimmons. One for Gu Jiao and the other for little Jing Kong. Little Jing Kong was a sensible and contented child. "Wow! What a big red persimmon. Jiao Jiao, can I eat it?" Gu Jiao nodded. Little Jing Kong began to peel the persimmon in the snow. Gu Yan looked at the persimmon in his hand, and then looked at little Jing Kong's and Gu Jiao's persimmons. His eyes suddenly became cold. In fact, he just saw that there was a big persimmon in the box. He thought that the maid would give it to little Jing Kong and Gu Jiao. But he didn't expect that she secretly put away the box and gave them 2 small persimmons. It went without saying who instructed her to do this. That persimmon must be left for Gu Jinyu. Grandmother didn't really love Yao Shi's child. It was reasonable that the people in the mansion favored Gu Jinyu. After all, they had raised him for so many years. But grandmother had never seen the three of them. She left the big persimmon for him and Gu Jinyu, who didn't come to the mansion today. Gu Yan was very angry. He walked over and took the persimmon that little Jing Kong had been peeling for a long time. He gave him the persimmon king in his hand. Little Jing Kong was stunned for a moment. He said, "Oh." He held the big persimmon king in his two small hands and peeled it with difficulty. After peeling it, he handed it to Gu Yan with both hands. "Here." This time Gu Yan was stunned. "What are you doing?" Little Jing Kong tilted his head. "Don't you want me to peel the persimmon for you?" I am giving you the big persimmon to eat." Gu Yan's chest seemed to be blocked by something. Little Jing Kong stuffed the peeled persimmon into his hands. Then he took his small, half-peeled persimmon and continued to peel it. He peeled it very carefully. But Gu Yan felt his heart hurt. He squatted down and looked at the little guy. "This is the big one. Can't you see it? Don't you want to eat the big one?" Little Jing Kong said seriously. "I can't finish it." Little Jing Kong thought that it was reasonable to give the big one to the adults and the small one to the children. "Yan." Gu Jiao smiled at Gu Yan. Gu Yan swallowed the words that he wanted to say to expose old Madame Yao. In fact, he knew what old Madame Yao was thinking. He was his father's favorite son and Gu Jinyu was his favorite daughter. Jiao Jiao didn't even live in the Lord Protector's mansion. It seemed that she was not favored. Old Madame Yao didn't care about Jiao Jiao and an adopted little monk. But she didn't want to offend Madame Yao, who had just returned to her mother's home. So she acted one way in front of others and another way behind others' backs. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that you can't find on the internet are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428266/114425591. HTML Genius remembered the website address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 160. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online will be available here. Gu Yan sat beside Gu Jiao with a dark face. Gu Jiao laughed. "What are you angry about?" "Aren't you angry?" Gu Yan looked at her with a puzzled expression. This question was equivalent to asking in vain. How could he not sense whether she was angry or not? Little Jing Kong was a child. He didn't understand these twists and turns, but she should know. Gu Yan didn't understand why she wasn't angry. Gu Jiao lazily leaned back in the chair. What's there to be angry about? She wasn't someone who lived under other people's eyes. Other people's opinions of her couldn't hurt her. She also didn't rely on other people's help to live. Because she was strong enough, she could ignore all the superficial things. Gu Yan couldn't reach his sister's level for the time being, but by Gu Jiao's side his emotions were also affected by her strong heart and gradually calmed down. Little Jing Kong ate happily and his whole body was covered in food. "Jiao Jiao, I'm dirty from eating." "It's okay, I brought you clothes." Gu Jiao brought little Jing Kong into the side room and washed his face and hands. She also took a small cotton-padded jacket from the small basket and put it on him. Old Madame Yao had a son and a daughter. Yao Yuan also had a son and a daughter. The daughter was Yao Xian, and the son was called Yao Fengyi. Yao Yifeng was studying abroad, and it was said that he wouldn't come back this year. The whole family sat at the table to eat. They were all family, so there was no division between men and women. Yao Shi first carried little Jing Kong to wash his hands. She found that his shoes were wet from stepping on the snow, so she carefully changed his footwear and tiger-headed shoes for him. In all fairness, little Jing Kong was really good-looking. Old Madame Yao had never seen a child more beautiful than him in her life. But no matter how beautiful he was still an orphan. In the future, he would have to rely on the Hofu. But in front of Yao Shi, old Madame Yao still gave little Jing Kong enough love. Old Madame Yao picked up the biggest drumstick and gave it to him. Little Jing Kong said politely, "Thank you, Grandma, but I can't eat meat now." As long as he grew up, it would be fine. Grandaunt said that when he grew up, Meaty would be willing to let him eat her. "Eat this." Old Madame Yao placed the egg soup in front of little Jing Kong. She had put in a lot of effort to make this egg custard. She had put in some lilies, and it was very beautiful. Little Jing Kong's appetite was greatly stimulated, and he happily ate. The meal was rather amicable. After eating, old Madame Yao asked Yao Xian to bring Gu Jiao and the other two to the garden for a walk. Gu Yan grabbed a small blanket. After walking for a while, little Jing Kong rubbed his eyes. "Are you sleepy?" Gu Jiao asked. Little Jing Kong shook his head. "I'm not sleepy. I just ate a little too much." Gu Jiao laughed and picked him up. Little Jing Kong's eyes widened. "I'm really not sleepy. I don't want to sleep at all." He tilted his head and fell asleep in Gu Jiao's arms. Yao Xian did not understand why Gu Yan would grab a blanket when he was walking. But when she saw Gu Yan draping the blanket over little Jing Kong, she understood everything. This cousin was quite attentive. "Cousin, when is Cousin Jinyu coming over?" She smiled and asked. Gu Yan said impatiently, "You can ask her." "How would I know?" Yao Xian choked and felt a little awkward. She said, "I heard that Cousin Jinyu went to a girls' school. Is that true?" Gu Yan was annoyed with Gu Jinyu, but this cousin kept asking him if he was blind when his biological sister was here. "I'm sleepy too. I'm going to sleep." After he said that, he pulled Gu Jiao and left without looking back. There was a reason why the Yao matriarch had sent the three children away. She gave He Shi a look, and He Shi said to Yao Shi, "Younger sister, mother is tired. Let mother rest. Come to my room to talk." Yao Shi did not like this sister-in-law, but she could not refuse. She could only go to He Shi's room. He Shi did not disappoint Yao Shi. After exchanging a few pleasantries, she dug a hole for Yao Shi. "Younger sister, has Jinyu's marriage been arranged?" Based on Yao Shi's understanding of He Shi, she would not care about this for no reason. Yao Shi was suspicious. Could it be that He Shi wanted to arrange a marriage between Jinyu and Yao Fingyi? Yao Shi said calmly, "Not yet. Her marriage will be decided by the old madam and the marquis. I'm not worried about this." He Shi smiled. "Jinyu is promising. Her marriage will not be bad in the future. But no matter what, she is already of marriageable age. As her mother, you should be more careful." Yao Shi was even more puzzled. If she was not having any ideas about Jinyu, then what was she doing? He Shi smiled and said, "Sister Xiner is about to be of marriageable age. She's not as capable as Jinyu, so I'm thinking of settling her marriage early. Otherwise, when she gets older, it won't be easy to talk about marriage." Yao Shi glanced at her. "Eldest sister-in-law wants me to help Sister Xian arrange a marriage?" This was not difficult. After concubine Ling's position was taken away, old Madame Gu was too busy and left many things to her to take care of. She was currently preparing New Year's gifts for the various large families. She could take this opportunity to help Sister Xian. He Shi smiled but did not speak. Yao Shi's heart skipped a beat. "You wouldn't have taken a fancy to the young masters of the Marquis Fu, right?" "There's no way." He Shi originally wanted to say the heir of the Marquis Fu, but seeing Yao Shi's reaction, she smiled embarrassedly. She pulled Yao Shi's hand and said, "Younger sister, don't let the fertile water flow into other people's fields. I am doing this for your own good. When Sister Xian marries over, our two families will be even closer. With Sister Xian going to the Marquis Fu to help you, you will be able to live more comfortably, right? It is better to resolve enmity than to keep it alive. When Sister Xian marries over, you will no longer be enemies. You will be mother and son." Yao Shi did not know how He Shi could say such a thing. She and Yan were about to be bullied to death by those three stepsons. Yet eldest sister-in-law wanted her to marry her niece over? Resolve what? She would never reconcile with the three of them in this lifetime. Yao Shi said, "You feel that selling me is not enough, so you want to sell Sister Xian, right?" "Madam," he said, Sister Xian is willing to do so. Yao Shi laughed in anger. Her aunt has been bullied to this extent. Yet she is rushing to marry the person who bullied her aunt. Eldest sister-in-law, this is the kind of child you have raised. When he sure heard this, her expression was not very good. Younger sister, now that you have become rich, you no longer care about the life and death of your maternal family. If we had not married you into the Marquis Fu, how could you have the wealth you have today? You have not cared about your maternal family for over a decade, and we have not said a single bad word about you. Let me ask you, how could there be such a good maternal family in this world? Now that your own niece is about to be married, you would rather let an outsider benefit than marry her into the manor. What? Does younger sister not want to see your maternal family live better than you? Yao Shi sneered. How does eldest sister-in-law know that she will live better than me after marrying into the manor? He sure raised her chin and said, our sister Xian is obedient and sensible. She will definitely be able to make husband and the old madam like her. If this was in the past, Yao Shi might have argued with her and explained the reasoning behind it, but later on, she gradually understood that some people were unreasonable. She only acknowledged her own reasoning. She did not care how much hardship Yao Shi had suffered in the Marquis Fu over the years. To put it bluntly, she was just being selfish. Yao Shi stood up and left. He sure saw that Yao Shi was angry and quickly pulled her back, apologizing. Eldest sister-in-law did not mean it that way. Don't misunderstand. Eldest sister-in-law said something wrong. You are a great person, and do not lower yourself to her level. Yao Shi said. I cannot say anything about the Marquis Fu's marriage. Even if she said it, they would not like her. He sure. In any case, you should bring Sister Xian to the manor to sit. Who knows which one of them would like her? Yao Shi. Eldest sister-in-law who would like her? The heir? He sure smiled and said. If the heir would like her, then that would be the best. Yao Shi was stunned. She actually wanted to marry Yao Xian to the Marquis Fu's heir? This was simply a dream. He sure looked at Yao Shi's face and awkwardly said. Second young master is also fine. Third young master should be fine, right? Yao Shi coldly said. When has it been the Yao family's daughter's turn to choose the Ding and Marquis Fu's young master? It was not that she wanted to speak up for her three stepson, but the two families were not compatible with each other in terms of social status. She was only going to be a second wife, but she was already despised by old Madame Gu. Yao Xian, on the other hand, wanted to be a legitimate first wife? Was this helping her, or did she want old Madame Gu to hate her to death? He sure's temper rose again. Didn't younger sister also marry into the Marquis Fu? Younger sister still had an engagement in the past. How could she be as pure as our sister Xian? Back then the Marquis liked younger sister. How could the heir not like our sister Xian? Don't they all have the same face? Could it be that sister Xian's face is worse than younger sister's? She was not pure. She relied on her face to serve others. She willingly married into the Marquis Fu. Good, very good. Yao Shi took a deep breath and asked. Are these words eldest sister-in-law's meaning or mother's meaning? He sure was speechless. Of course, it was her and mother-in-law's meaning, but mother-in-law did not allow her to say it. Yao Shi, however, understood everything. Change. She was too naive. Originally, they were going to eat dinner before returning to the manor, but Yao Shi could no longer stay. Jiao, let's return to the manor. Yao Shi entered a side room and said to Gu Jiao. Good. Gu Jiao did not ask why. Gu Yan also did not ask. Old Madame Yao chased after them with the help of the servants. She scolded He Shi and told Yao Shi not to argue with her. Then, she took out the presents she had prepared for the children. Gu Yan sneered and knocked over his and Gu Jiao's presents in front of everyone. They saw that it was also a snack, but a red packet rolled out of Gu Yan's box. Gu Jiao's was nothing. Little Jing Kong's was also nothing. But the box that Yao Shi brought to Gu Jinyu also had a red packet. Yao Shi looked at the presents for the 4 children, and was so angry that her face turned white. Little Jing Kong was asleep. Gu Yan was too lazy to pretend to be peaceful. He directly took little Jing Kong's presents and threw them into the river. He also threw Gu Jinyu's. If they wanted to curry favor, they should do it themselves. Don't dirty their hands. On the carriage back to the residence, Gu Yan also fell asleep. He lay on Yao Shi's lap. Little Jing Kong lay in Gu Jiao's arms. Both of them were sleeping and snoring. Yao Shi did not say a word. She tried her best not to let Gu Jiao know how she felt, but Gu Jiao could still feel it. I'm sorry, Jiao Jiao. I shouldn't have asked you to come today, she said guiltily. Gu Jiao said, I think it's very good. Ha. Yao Shi was slightly stunned. Little Jing Kong kicked the blanket away. Gu Jiao pulled it over and covered him with it, saying, I know where Madam used to live. I used to be very curious. Yao Shi looked at Gu Jiao in a daze and said, Jiao Jiao, why would you be curious? Gu Jiao thought for a while. I don't know. I'm just curious. I want to know about Madam's past. I also want to know how Madam lived every day. Yao Shi covered her mouth. She did not dare to believe what she heard. Was her Jiao Jiao starting to care about her? Jiao Jiao, does Madam regret it? Do you regret marrying Marquis Gu? When Yao Shi and He Shi were arguing, Gu Jiao was in the garden not far away. With her hearing, she more or less heard some of it. Yao Shi did not hesitate and shook her head, saying, I don't regret it. Why? Gu Jiao asked. Yao Shi lowered her head and caressed Gu Yan's cheek. Then she looked at Gu Jiao lovingly, saying, Because if I didn't marry Marquis Gu, there wouldn't be you and Yan, You are Mother's most precious gifts in this life. Gu Jiao did not understand this kind of feeling. Because of what happened when she was young, she shut down her emotional system early. This was a kind of self-protection mechanism. It was to prevent her from breaking down when she was hurt by her parents. But at the same time, it made her lose the ability to treat her feelings logically. In her world, like was like, hate was hate. It was either black or white. But Yao Shi's experience was more like a gray area. She gave birth to a child she really wanted with someone she did not want to marry. Seeing her daughter's dazed expression, Yao Shi let out a laugh. Her daughter was really considerate and cute. The unhappiness in Yao Shi's heart completely disappeared. Yao Shi first sent Gu Jiao and the other two back to Bai Shui Alley before returning to the manor. Gu Jinyu accompanied consort Shu in the palace for an entire day, and only returned to the manor when it was dark. There were less than 10 days until New Year's Eve. Qinghe Academy was on holiday. There was still 1 day of classes for the directorate and 3 days of classes for the 6th hall. Early in the morning, Gu Jiao went to the medical center. The matriarch and a few neighbors were playing Pai Gao in the house. The old chancellor stood at the side with a dark face, paying money and serving tea. Gu Shaoshan was in the backyard knocking on wood. Gu Yan quietly came to the front yard. First he looked around at the door. After a while he came to the entrance of the alley and looked around. The end of the alley was connected to Chong and Main Street. People came and went in an endless stream. The shops were all pasted with window flowers and couplets. It was a joyous atmosphere. He looked around. Suddenly, a tall shadow shrouded him. What are you doing? It was Gu Chongqing. He was wearing a golden fur coat and sitting on a tall horse, looking valiant and formidable. Gu Yan was so shocked that he trembled. He turned his head and said without changing his expression, I'm not waiting for you. Gu Chongqing. Gu Chongqing saw him with his hands behind his back and asked, What are you holding in your hands? Gu Yan hesitated for a moment. He still took his hands out from behind his back and handed it to him. Here. Gu Chongqing took it. It was a wooden carving. The thing carved was a bit hard to explain. Gu Chongqing. A monkey. Gu Yan exploded. What monkey? Open your eyes and look clearly. Is there such a handsome monkey in the world? He had learned from Gu Shaoshan for a few days and nights. His hands were already bleeding. This guy didn't know what was good for him. He said he was a monkey. Digression. On the last day of the Weibo Lucky Draw, my Weibo account is Folk Prescription. I reposted the first Weibo Lucky Draw. There's a little Jing Kong pillow, and a series of peripherals that everyone likes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114396958. HTML genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 161. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are all available here. Humph! Guyen turned his back. He was so angry that the small tuft of hair on the top of his head stood up, expressing his unhappiness in the cold wind. Gu Chongqing laughed softly. His voice was cold and magnetic, and when he laughed it had an irresistible charm. Gu Yan's small eyes tried to glance behind him. Then he began to walk back. After taking a step, Gu Chongqing felt that something was wrong. "What's wrong with your leg?" Gu Yan pursed his lips and said in a small voice, "It's nothing, it's just a sprain." Their house was in the middle of the alley. It wasn't far from here, but it wasn't close either. A normal person would have sprained their leg, but this was Gu Yan. Gu Chongqing looked at his thin and weak body and sighed helplessly. "Get on." Gu Yan turned to look at him. His small face was full of cleverness and playing dumb. It was very contradictory. Gu Chongqing thought of the silly roe deer in the forest, but this time it was the proud one. Gu Chongqing reached out his large and strong hand and grabbed Gu Yan's shoulder. He gently lifted him up and sat him on his saddle. "Don't you usually eat? So thin." Gu Yan sat in front of him and wanted to say, "How do I not eat? You're the one who doesn't eat." But when he leaned against his firm and broad chest, Gu Yan couldn't speak. Did this person eat 10 buckets of rice a day? How could he be so strong? "Hold on tight," Gu Chongqing reminded him. The reins were in Gu Chongqing's hands, so Gu Yan could only hold on to the saddle. Originally, Gu Chongqing was quite satisfied with his own saddle. After all, he was the heir of the Marquis's household. The things that the servants prepared for him would not be too shabby. However, when Gu Yan's white and tender fingers were placed on the saddle, it instantly turned the saddle into a piece of rotten wood. The saddle needs to be replaced, Gu Chongqing thought. "I'll send you back," he said. "I'm not going back," Gu Yan said. Gu Chongqing looked at him strangely. "Why?" "Gu Yan, I want to eat something." Gu Chongqing, "What do you want to eat?" Gu Yan, "Sugar roasted chestnuts." There was a stall selling roasted chestnuts on the streets of Chang, and it was in the direction he had come from. Gu Chongqing turned his horse around and galloped towards the stall. Considering Gu Yan's health, he did not let the horse run too fast, but it was enough to stimulate Gu Yan. This was the first time in his life that he rode a horse. Gu Yan was so excited that he had no place to sit on the saddle. "Go, go, go." Although he spoke very softly, Gu Chongqing's hearing was amazing. He even heard the tone of the martial arts world's overlord. Gu Chongqing could not help but smile. He sped up a little. Gu Yan was overjoyed. Gu Yan had wanted to ride a horse for a long time, but in his 15 years of life, he had been sick for 14 years. He had never ridden a horse before, and he had no playmates. Little Jing Kong and Gu Xiaoshan were both younger than him. He wanted to play with older people. Gu Jiao could calm Gu Yan down, but there were some things that Gu Jiao could not give him. Gu Chongqing's appearance happened to fill this gap. Gu Yan was very happy riding the horse. After buying the sugar-roasted chestnuts, he still looked unsatisfied. Gu Yan took the sugar-roasted chestnuts. "I didn't bring any money. I'll pay you back when we get back." "No need," Gu Chongqing said. Then, Gu Yan opened his mouth. "Did I spend all your money?" "No." "Oh." Gu Yan silently chewed on a sugar-roasted chestnut. "I still want to eat roast chicken." Gu Chongqing took him to buy roast chicken again. He did not want roast chicken from ordinary shops. He had to go around half of the capital to buy roast chicken from Huji's. Gu Yan looked at the roast chicken in his hand and opened his mouth. "What else do you want to eat?" Gu Chongqing asked. Gu Yan blinked and said, Crab roe crisps from Sanyuan Pavilion. Sanyuan Pavilion was in Lingnan. Was this guy going to elope with him? Gu Chongqing looked at him coldly. Gu Yan angrily pinched the saddle. Okay, then let's eat a stick of sugar-coated haws. I don't care about the shop. The ones from the roadside stalls look cheap and dirty. Eating them will cause diarrhea and make you sick. Gu Chongqing. There was a sugar drink shop on Vermilion Bird Avenue that sold sugar-coated haws. The price was expensive, but it definitely would not cause any diarrhea. Gu Chongqing took Gu Yan to buy a few sticks of sugar-coated haws. Gu Yan's arms could not hold any more. He could not buy any more and could only obediently go home. On the way back, the wind blew and Gu Yan shivered. Gu Chongqing covered him with a fur coat. Gu Yan was wrapped in his fur coat, only revealing his furry head. But to be fair, even the back of his head was cuter than his two younger brothers at home. Gu Chongqing took a deep breath. Perhaps he was possessed. When they reached home, Gu Chongqing dismounted first, then carried Gu Yan down. He took the things in Gu Yan's arms and placed them on the stone table in the front yard. I'm leaving. He walked out and said. Gu Yan looked at him expectantly. Do you want to stay for a meal? My sister's cooking is very good. That girl who was even more cold-blooded than a killer? Gu Chongqing found it hard to imagine what her cooking skills would be like. He looked at the kitchen behind the hall, and a trace of desire flashed in his eyes. But in the end he restrained himself. No, I should go home. Oh. Gu Yan was disappointed. Gu Chongqing mounted his horse and glanced at Gu Yan. Go in. Okay. Gu Yan nodded but did not move. He watched as the horse disappeared at the end of the alley. Only then did he turn around and jump on the spot, feeling refreshed as he entered the house. That's right. What, sprained ankle? No. Okay, your ankle is fine. Stay in bed and rest for the next few days. In 7 days, I'll come and take out the stitches for you. In a house on Vermilion Bird Avenue, Gu Jiao finished stitching up a little girl's wound and finished her first house call in the capital. The sky began to snow again. The goose feather-like snowflakes fluttered about, gathering and dispersing. Soon the street was blocked. This place was not too far from Clearwater Alley, so Gu Jiao decided to walk back. Not long after she got off the carriage, she felt that someone was following her. She did not enter Clearwater Alley. Instead, she passed through the entrance of the alley and entered another alley. She held the silver needle in her hand without anyone noticing. Finally, the other party moved. 2 masked men wielding knives descended from the sky and blocked her path. But before they could make a move, Gu Jiao shot the silver needle into their chest. The 2 men fainted on the spot. Almost at the same time, an arrow shot from behind her. She took a step forward and stepped on the wall. She turned around in the air and ruthlessly kicked the arrow away. But the other party clearly had more tricks up their sleeves. A large net fell from the roof. Gu Jiao pulled out the dagger at her waist and cut the large net in half. But at this moment, a hook came out of nowhere and hooked onto her small basket. With a whoosh, it was taken away. Small medicine box. Gu Jiao's eyes turned cold as she looked up at the roof. She saw a man wearing black clothes and a black mask holding onto her small basket as he looked down at her. He gave a disdainful sneer and disappeared from the other side of the roof. Gu Jiao quickly chased after him. Gu Jiao felt like she had returned to her previous life where she killed and stole from the organization. Her blood was boiling. She could feel that the other party's skills were not simple. The other party had tried to plot against her several times, but she had dodged them all. In the end, Gu Jiao chased after the other party to a courtyard that seemed to have been abandoned for a long time. The other party had already hidden inside. The moment Gu Jiao stepped over the threshold, a row of sharp arrows flew towards her. She had dodged bullets in her previous life, so this kind of speed was not a problem for her. The arrows that seemed to be flying at high speed seemed to be in slow motion in Gu Jiao's eyes. Gu Jiao easily dodged them. A cold snort came from the courtyard. I didn't expect you to be able to chase me all the way here. You really do have some skills. The voice came from behind the mask, so it was slightly different from the original voice. Gu Jiao could hear from his tone that he had come here specifically to deal with her. Gu Jiao walked into the courtyard and saw the other party on the steps of the corridor. Who are you? The black-clothed man sneered. I should be the one asking you that. Who are you? Gu Jiao let out a no sound. You don't even know who I am, and you dare to rob me? The black-clothed man said. I heard that you are a village girl from a small county. You grew up in the village and had a mental illness. It was only a year ago that you recovered. But looking at your skills, you don't look like a village girl at all. Gu Jiao did not feel guilty at all. So what? Does it bother you? The man slowly walked down the steps. The whole mask covered his face completely, only revealing a pair of extremely malicious eyes. He stared coldly at Gu Jiao. Where did the Real Miss Gu go? It seemed that he was not a rival of the medical center, but someone related to her. Gu Jiao calmly looked at the basket in his hand. Give it back to me. The man took a step forward and arrogantly said, Tell me where you took the real Miss Gu, and I will consider giving it back to you. Gu Jiao irritably frowned. Don't talk nonsense. If you want to fight, then fight. Don't be a sissy. The man had been in the capital for many years. He had a bad reputation and was powerful and domineering. It was the first time that he was called a sissy. His face turned black. Gu Jiao really did not have the time to talk nonsense with him. She still had to go home and cook. Gu Jiao raised her hand to greet the other party. The man's movements were more strange than Gu Jiao imagined. After a few rounds, Gu Jiao did not gain an advantage over him. However, it was not easy for him to control Gu Jiao. His brows wrinkled. When he made a move, he would take down the enemy in 3 moves. This girl had endured more than 10 moves. As the two trembled, the sound of horse hooves came from the alley. Then Gu Changqing shouted, Who is it? The man's body froze. Gu Jiao took advantage of the situation and chopped down with her hand. She took back her small basket and raised her other hand. With her palm facing down, a dagger flew out from her sleeve. With a twist of her palm, she threw it out with great force. The man did not dodge in time. His left arm was cut, and a hidden weapon that he did not have time to shoot fell to the ground. He looked back at the direction of the door. Gritting his teeth, he used his qinggong to leave from the back door. It's you. As soon as the man left, Gu Changqing entered the courtyard. He was surprised to see Gu Jiao. Were you fighting with someone just now? Gu Jiao shook her small basket. Someone stole my things. Who? Gu Changqing asked. Gu Jiao shook her head. I didn't see clearly. He was wearing a mask. Gu Changqing looked around and found the hidden weapon on the ground. He picked it up and frowned. It's him. Gu Jiao made a sound of surprise. You know him? Gu Changqing said. The capital's #1 bandit, Fei Shuang. This frost dart is his unique hidden weapon. Fei Shuang was a very troublesome person for the government. The Supreme Court, the imperial government, and the Ministry of Justice had all been attacked by him before. Many confidential files had been stolen from them. He was one of the most wanted bandits in the imperial court. Unfortunately, he appeared and disappeared like a ghost. No one had ever caught him. No one had even seen his real face. Gu Changqing asked, Why would he steal your things? Did Fei Shuang not care about his reputation? Did he steal from a little girl? Gu Jiao thought of the conversation with him and said, He seems to know me. Fei Shuang knows you? Gu Changqing was stunned. As night fell, the snow became heavier. The Gu mansion was shrouded in a sea of snow. Gu Qinglin could barely get off the ground now, but he could not walk too far. He usually sat in a wheelchair. He asked the servant to push the wheelchair out of his room and went to his second brother's place. The children in the mansion all had their own courtyard, so did Gu Qinglin. However, he was used to living with his second brother, so he was not in a hurry to move out. Second brother, second brother. He knocked on the door. Gu Qingfeng came from the other side of the corridor and looked at him. What's wrong? Gu Qinglin said, Second brother, where did you go? I was looking for you everywhere. Gu Qingfeng said, Why are you looking for me? Gu Qinglin was not in a hurry to answer. He looked up at him. Are you not feeling well? You look so pale. I went to the storeroom to find something. It's freezing. It's a bit cold. Oh. Gu Qinglin did not suspect him. Second brother, do you know where my spinning top went? The one that the 5th prince gave me. I can't find it. Gu Chengfeng said, "Didn't I put it in the third cabinet on the right side of the cabinet? Go look for it." Gu Chenglin ordered the servant who pushed the wheelchair. The servant hurriedly went and came back with an exquisite spinning top. "It's really there." Gu Chenglin took the spinning top and stood up in surprise. "Second brother, you're amazing. You remember where I put it." As he spoke, he happily patted his second brother's arm. He heard his second brother groan. He was stunned. "Second brother, what's wrong? Did I hurt you?" Gu Chengfeng calmly put his hands behind his back and said in a normal tone, "No, I'm fine. You go play. I'll go back to my room first." Gu Chenglin, "Oh. Second brother is acting weird today." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114392827. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. Chapter 162. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. On the other side, Gu Chongqing led the horse and sent Gu Jiao back to Jadewater Alley. He could not understand why the capital's #1 thief, Fei Shuang, would know Gu Jiao. Perhaps Gu Jiao was overthinking it. Fei Shuang only stole things of great value, whether it was treasures or court secrets. The most valuable thing in her small basket was the medicine box. Even if it was a box of top-quality medicine, it would not be able to enter Fei Shuang's eyes. Could it be that she really came for her? But Gu Chongqing did not feel that there was a problem with Gu Jiao herself. Or perhaps Fei Shuang had set her eyes on Marquis Ding and Manor? "We're here." Gu Jiao's voice pulled Gu Chongqing back from his thoughts. Gu Chongqing looked at the residence behind Gu Jiao. This was a residence that was smaller than his courtyard, but this residence had a different atmosphere. He could not tell what it was, but in short, it made people yearn for it. "Do you want to go in and sit?" Gu Jiao asked. "No, I need to return to the manor." Gu Chongqing said. He should have returned to the manor a long time ago. After sending Gu Yan back, they encountered a fight. He went to take a look, and then sent her back the way they came. Actually, it was already very late. Gu Jiao's clear eyes looked at him. "Many thanks. I did not do anything." When he arrived, Fei Shuang had already left. He thought, even if he did not appear, nothing would have happened to this girl. Of course, nothing would have happened to Gu Jiao, but she would not have been able to smoothly retrieve the medicine box. Of course, Gu Jiao did not want to thank him for this. Gu Jiao bends her lips. "Thank you for taking Gu Yan out to play. He is very happy." She had seen Gu Yan sitting on Gu Chongqing's horse when she was making a house call at Vermilion Bird Avenue. She was holding a few sticks of sparkling and translucent candied haws with a smug expression on her face. In fact, Gu Yan lacked the role of a father when he was growing up. What Marquis Gu couldn't give him, Gu Chongqing did. Gu Jiao had never seen Gu Yan so smug. Some stability could be given by Gu Jiao, but some courage could only be given by her father and brother. The little sickly girl who couldn't even lift a bucket of water was gradually growing her own wings. "Ah, you saw it." Gu Chongqing cleared his throat. "When I left, I didn't expect to go to so many places. I forgot to say goodbye to your family. I don't know if they were worried." Gu Jiao smiled. Great Aunt knows what to do. Although the old lady did not do her job all day long, her eyes were fixed on the children. Gu Yan was waiting for them at the entrance of the alley. Little Jingkong's 7 fat chicks, 1 baby eagle and Gu Yan's puppy were all lying motionlessly on the doorsill. They would bark if he really walked away with a stranger. "That's good." Gu Chongqing was relieved. "I'm going in." Gu Jiao said. "Okay." Gu Changqing nodded. He suddenly thought of something and called her. By the way, do you still have more of the golden sore medicine you gave me last time? What? Golden sore medicine? The next day, after hearing Gu Jiao's words, the Chinibu boss of the clinic was so shocked that his eyes widened. How much did you say they wanted? More than 1,000 bottles. Gu Jiao said lightly. The Chinibu boss fell on the chair and pinched his philtrum. Pinch, pinch, pinch. Finally, she managed to wake herself up this time. This was 1,000 bottles of golden sore medicine. How much money would they earn if they sold it? The Chinibu boss rubbed his hands. Did you lower the price? Gu Jiao said. Oh, I didn't lower the price. I sold it to them at the price I sold it to others. The Chinibu boss was confused. No, I sold it to others at the retail price. Why would they sell it at the same price for 1,000 bottles? Who is so arrogant? Gu Jiao. The military camp. The Chinibu boss finally fainted again after pinching his philtrum. How could a small clinic like theirs do business with the military camp? What kind of good fortune was this? The military camp had medical officials from the imperial court. All the medical supplies used were distributed by the imperial court. They had never done business with the people. If there was something that the imperial court could not get, they would find one of the biggest clinics in the capital. For example, the Hu family's Huichun Hall. This business was not urgent. The goods would be delivered after the new year. Right now, Gu Jiao asked the Chinibu boss to search for the herbs. Once they had the herbs, they would be able to make the medicine in batches. As soon as the business was good, the clinic was short on manpower. After the Chinibu boss woke up, he immediately sent people to contact the doctors in the capital to see if there was anyone who was willing to work in their Miracle Hands Hall. Gu Jiao and the Chinibu boss were busy with their own matters. When it was close to noon, an acquaintance came to the clinic. It was Du Xiaoyan, whom they had not seen for a long time. Du Xiaoyan was no longer dressed like a scholar. She had changed into a light blue dress. Others dressed elegantly, but she looked valiant and formidable. She strode into the clinic and came in front of Gu Jiao. She pointed at herself and said, Miss Gu, do you still remember me? That's right, she already knew that the other party's surname was Gu. Gu Jiao was in the middle of putting the medicine she bought into the medicine cabinet. Hearing this, she did not stop and lightly replied, Today's consultation is with Dr. Song. I'm not here to see a doctor. I'm here to look for you. Du Xiaoyan said. I wanted to come a long time ago, but I've been too busy with my homework recently. Originally, the girls' school was not so busy with their homework. But recently, for some reason, the students in the class had improved a lot. They were almost catching up with Zhuang Yueshi and Gu Jinyu. Some of them were copied, but some of them really understood the questions. The teacher asked them to explain, and they did not make a single mistake. The teacher thought that he was really good, and increased the difficulty of the class. Du Xiaoyan's studies were not bad, but they were not the best. She was the type who would rather be scolded than copy other people's homework. So recently, she had been doing her homework until late at night. She had not gone out for a long time. If her sister had not asked her to come to the clinic, she would still be doing her homework in the classroom. My sister said that you have medicine to remove scars. She's been busy recently and can't come over. She asked me to get the medicine for her. Gu Jiao had only mentioned the medicine to one person before, and that was the third princess consort. Yes, the third princess consort said that her surname was Du. There was already medicine in the small medicine box. Gu Jiao took out the scar ointment and scar plaster. The scar ointment was squeezed out and put into a well-sealed porcelain bottle. The scar plaster was unpacked. Gu Jiao told her how to use it and charged her 3 taels of silver. Du Xiaoyan was shocked. So expensive? I'm afraid you're not running a shady shop, right? This was the most effective scar ointment in the research institute. It cost more than 2,000 yuan, which was more than 2 taels of silver. The scar plaster was also very expensive. She did not make much money from it. Forget it if you don't want to buy it. Gu Jiao reached out to take the medicine back. The medicine in the small medicine box was so precious that she could not bear to sell it. Du Xiaoyan protected the medicine with one hand and put the silver on the table with the other. Buy. If you don't buy it, My sister will chop me into pieces. There are so many imperial doctors in the palace. I don't know why my sister likes your medicine. The third princess consort's surgery was not made public. Even Du Xiaoran did not know. Du Xiaoyan only thought that the third princess consort had bumped into something. Today was the last day of the Imperial College's elementary school. It was also the last day of the girls' school. The girls' school had gone through a series of exams. The only exam left was the guqin. In the music hall, Zhuang Yueshi finished playing the song that she learned this month. There was a round of applause. His performance was simply too spectacular. Zhuang Yueshi came in first place in her poetry and literature exams. She was tied with Gu Jinyu for first place in her arithmetic exams. Her musical skills were her weakness. Everyone thought that her performance would not be satisfactory. Who would have thought that she would improve so quickly in just half a month? For this exam, the crown princess invited the palace musicians and teachers to invigilate it. The musician's surname was Xie. Musician Xie nodded with satisfaction. Miss Zhuang's guqin skills have improved greatly. The teachers gave her an A grade. Musician Xie was stricter and gave her a B grade. But this result was already very good. The next one was Gu Jinyu. Gu Jinyu held the lunar shadow Fushi guqin and bowed to musician Xie and the teachers. The teachers also stood up and bowed back. She was the county princess. The etiquette could not be ignored. As a palace musician, musician Xie also had an official rank. His rank was higher than Gu Jinyu's. He calmly accepted Gu Jinyu's bow. Gu Jinyu's lunar shadow Fushi guqin was more beautiful than Zhuang Yueshi's guqin in terms of sound. Furthermore, she had put in more effort than Zhuang Yueshi to practice the guqin. It was not like she had not practiced for a long time. She practiced every day. In the end, musician Xie gave her an A grade. Actually, I gave you an A grade not only because you played well. The better you changed the second half of the song. That's right. Gu Jinyu had changed the score. The song they learned was called Chiu-sei. It was an incomplete song passed down from the previous dynasty. Only the first half was left. The second half was compiled by later generations. There were many different versions on the market. The version composed by Lord Lunar Shadow was the most highly regarded. The girls' school taught this version. However, Gu Jinyu had made some slight changes on the basis of this version. She added a gentle and sad mood to it. It was more suitable for women to play. Lord Lunar Shadow was a man after all. His score was more like it was custom-made for male musicians. It was difficult for women to play with such a bold and unrestrained feeling. I'm crying. Miss Gu played so well. A soft-hearted girl wiped her tears and said. She was not the only one who cried. Gu Jinyu counted 4 or 5 girls who were wiping their tears. It was obvious that her arrangement was a huge success. Gu Jinyu was very happy and proud. With Gu Jinyu's performance, the other students could not perform well. They were all inferior. Finally, there was a little girl with a small round face. She was about 14 years old. The girls' school uniform was issued, but the jewelry was her own. She only had a red string on her head, and didn't even have the most common pearl hair clip. She got in through the exam, a teacher said to musician Xie. She was the daughter of a poor family. Her father had studied until he became a scholar. When her father taught her brothers, she listened and learned a little. She was very hardworking. She was passable in other aspects, but her zither skills were a little lacking. Because of her inferiority complex, she did not dare to practice in the brothel. She hid in the quiet pavilion every day. It was so cold that her poor face was frostbitten. The zither she used was the cheapest zither. The tone could not be compared to a good zither, but the pitch was good. She started to play. To be honest, she had improved a lot. If it were not for Zhuang Yueshi and Gu Jinyu, the teachers might have taken a second look at her. The first half of the song was ordinary. Musician Xie covered her face and yawned. The last student came. He picked up the D-grade board. The other teachers were also sleepy. But at this moment, she suddenly plucked the strings and the tune went up a notch. This was a song that poured out one's heart. On the night of the wedding, the lover was captured to the battlefield and did not return for 10 years. She played the grief of a young girl towards her lover to the extreme. The first half of the song was also a young girl's memories and grief. But the second half of the song suddenly changed. She seemed to know the truth of why her lover had not returned for 10 years. She looked at the entire battlefield. The tune was no longer about her lover's grief. It was about the battlefield, about the thousands of dead bodies. It was a handful of yellow sand where thousands of heroes had been buried under the golden spears and iron horses. In the end, everyone seemed to see the sun setting in the west. On the yellow sand of the desert, a long sword stood under the setting sun. The hilt of the sword was wrapped with a young girl's veil that fluttered in the wind. Everyone's eyes turned red. They were immersed in the huge shock and could not recover for a long time. Musician Xie was the first to recover. He realized that he was crying. How long had it been since he heard such a soul-stirring song? The young girl's zither skills were not considered excellent. Some parts could even be said to be inexperienced. But it was also because of this inexperience that the second half of the song was so close to breaking down, with nowhere to turn, and falling into madness. It was like a song that was tailor-made for her. Unlike Gu Jinyu's slight changes, this young girl could be said to have completely subverted the second half of the song. In comparison, Gu Jinyu's song seemed very petty and could not be brought to the stage. Musician Xie sighed inwardly. Even the top zither player in the 6 countries, Lord Yuing, could not change such a majestic song. This was not a song. It was a person's style. Musician Xie suppressed the excitement in his heart and looked at her. "What's your name?" She bowed slightly and said, "Li Wanwan." Musician Xie nodded in satisfaction. The song was changed very well. Li Wanwan opened her mouth. The song, she did not change it. Digression, who changed it? Who changed it? Oh, asterisk, asterisk. Oh, the latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114364310. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 163. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with substance that cannot be found online are available here. Because Li Wanwan's Guqin skills were not as good as Gu Jinyu and Zhuang Yueshi, she tied with Zhuang Yueshi in the end and took second place in the exam. Although Gu Jinyu managed to secure first place, she could not feel happy. That song was too outstanding. She could feel that she had been completely crushed. She had heard from Consort Shu that the crown princess had invited a musician from the palace for the exam. She had changed the song to amaze musician Xie. Otherwise, she could have easily gotten first place in such a small exam. It would not have been so bad if she had not changed it. She would not have been criticized for taking first place with her skilled Guqin skills. Now, with Li Wanwan as a comparison, her song became a joke. Gu Jinyu would never have thought that her limelight would be stolen by the unremarkable Li Wanwan. After the exam, musician Xie stayed behind to give Li Wanwan some pointers on her Guqin skills. He told her where she needed to improve, and gave her a Guqin. It could not compare to the Lunar Shadow Fushi Guqin, but it was much better than the one Li Wanwan had. Gu Jinyu gloomily carried the Lunar Shadow Fushi Guqin out of the brothel. When she went downstairs, she bumped into Zhuang Mengdai. Zhuang Mengdai had gotten the last place. She had been angry, but after seeing Gu Jinyu's situation, she was not angry anymore. She glanced at the Lunar Shadow Fushi Guqin in Gu Jinyu's arms and mocked. "Aya, what's the use of having such a good Guqin? Didn't someone else steal the limelight? You changed the song with that bit of skill? What a joke." Was Gu Jinyu's song bad? Not at all. If not for Li Wanwan's song, she would have been the one to amaze musicians yet today. Gu Jinyu was not as arrogant as Gu Jiao. She was furious and said, "At least I got first place. May I ask what Miss Zhuang's rank was?" Zhuang Mingdia's sore spot. She could not out-talk Gu Jinyu and could only twist her words. "You dare to talk back to me?" Gu Jinyu scoffed. "Speaking of which, I'm a county princess. Miss Zhuang should greet me when she sees me. However, this is a school and we're all schoolmates. I won't argue with Miss Zhuang over etiquette." Zhuang Mingdai was infuriated. "Gu Jinyu, you think you're so great just because you're a county princess? Don't think I don't know what you are. You better not mess with me. Otherwise, I will reveal your secret. Let's see who will still look up to you." Gu Jinyu's face turned green. Of course, she understood what Zhuang Mingdai was referring to. Back then at the hot spring villa, her father had said in front of Junwang that she, Gu Jiao and Gu Yan were triplets. Unexpectedly, Zhuang Mingdai had already known the truth. How did she know? And Commandery Princeton, does he know? The last time he came to look for her, did he not know about her background or did he not mind even if he knew? Gu Jinyu's heart was suddenly in a mess. Her absent-minded appearance made Zhuang Mingdai think that she was scared by her words. Zhuang Mingdai rolled her eyes in satisfaction and turned to sit on the carriage to return home. On the other side, musician Xie had finished teaching Li Wanwan. Li Wanwan was not in a hurry to go back. Instead, she carried the new guqin to the pavilion where she usually practiced. This place was too secluded. Even the sweeping servants would not come here. Miss, are you there?" She looked at the wall and asked. There was no response from behind the wall. Usually the other party would be there at this time. She thought for a moment and continued to look at the wall. "Miss, I passed the exam. Thank you for the song." After she finished speaking, she waited for a while. Only when the snow became heavier did she turn to leave with the guqin. On the other side of the wall, the second boss was moving the chair that Gu Jiao had asked him to buy into the courtyard. He wondered, who was the person talking on the other side of the wall? What song was it? Gu Jiao lowered her eyes and flipped through the account book in her hand. Who knows? The second boss did not understand. It could not be his Xiaogu's song, right? Xiaogu was an expert at treating people, but she did not know how to compose songs. Even though she had a guqin in her room, it was just for decoration. She had not even touched it before. The snow stopped after a while, but it was still snowing. The second boss was afraid that Gu Jiao would have trouble walking later, so he asked Gu Jiao to go back quickly. Today was the last day of classes at the Imperial College. She promised to pick up little Jing Kong. When she arrived at the Imperial College, little Jing Kong was already looking around at the entrance. His small body was wearing the Imperial College's uniform, which was very eye-catching. Xiao Luleng was also eye-catching behind him. She did not know how this person grew up. He was becoming more and more beautiful day by day. Jiao Jiao. Little Jing Kong saw Gu Jiao and immediately threw away his bad brother-in-law. He bounced over to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao rubbed his little head and looked at Xiao Luleng. Don't you need to study tonight? There's no need. Xiao Luleng walked over casually. Gu Jiao could not feel the terrifying atmosphere of the Imperial College from him. In fact, because the spring quarter examination was approaching, the Imperial College's tribute students were going crazy. Even Lin Qingye and Feng Lin slept later and woke up earlier than usual. The teachers did not ask for self-study tonight, but Xiao Luleng was the only one who dared to not study. The family of three walked back. It was snowing heavily. Gu Jiao took out the oil paper umbrella from the basket, but little Jing Kong said that he wanted to be drenched in the snow. Fortunately, Gu Jiao brought a small cloak for him. He put on the cloak and looked like a little wizard. The little wizard jumped excitedly in the snow. Wah wah wah. Xiao Luleng took the oil paper umbrella and held it above their heads, leaning more toward Gu Jiao. The two of them walked side by side on the main road. The most comfortable way to get along in the world was to not talk and not feel awkward. Both of them enjoyed the tranquility of this moment, as well as the occasional popping sounds coming from the little clear sky. By the way, Gu Jiao thought of something and suddenly asked him, "When is your birthday?" It was written on his household register. It was also written on their marriage certificate. The reason why she still asked this question was because she thought that the birthday on the household register was not his real birthday. She was like this. She would not expose all the windows at once, but she would inadvertently tear down his defenses with a gentle tone that he could not refuse. The 12th lunar month, he said. Oh. It was the 12th lunar month now. Gu Jiao turned to look at him, looking a little cute. What's the date? Xiao Lulang paused and said lightly, New Year's Eve. Gu Jiao smiled. Not yet. That's great. The ancient people did not celebrate their birthdays every year. They only celebrated important ones, such as the first birthday, the 15th birthday of a woman, and the 20th birthday of a man. The coming-of-age ceremony was a man's coming-of-age ceremony. It meant that he could tie up his hair and wear a crown, and he was a real mature man. However, in Gu Jiao's previous life, the 18th birthday was also a very important birthday. That was why she wanted to celebrate it for him. Little Jingkong, when is your birthday? She stopped little Jingkong, who was playing in front of her. Little Jingkong squatted down, grabbed a handful of snow and made a snowball. New Year's Eve, Gu Jiao said. What a coincidence. Little Jingkong's eyes lit up. Jiao Jiao's birthday is also on New Year's Eve. Gu Jiao smiled. I'm not, but your brother-in-law is. Little Jingkong's smile froze, and the snowball in his hand suddenly did not smell good. Ah. Why did he have to have the same birthday as his bad brother-in-law? He did not want this birthday anymore. In fact, little Jingkong's birthday was not necessarily on New Year's Eve. When he was abandoned in the temple, he was only a few months old, and his birth characters were not in his swaddling clothes. According to his age, the abbot estimated that he was born around New Year's Eve, and decided to set his birthday on New Year's Eve. Little Jingkong asked Xiao Lulang with a gloomy face. Why do you have to imitate me on your birthday? Xiao Lulang's mouth twitched. I'm older than you, okay? Who's imitating who? Sigh. Little Jingkong sighed gloomily. What's wrong? Gu Jiao touched his little head. Could it be that he was so gloomy because his birthday was the same as Xiao Lulang's? Little Jingkong spread his hands and sighed. In the past, Master always accompanied me on my birthday. No matter where he was, he would always rush back to the temple in time to attend my birthday banquet. Xiao Lulang was confused. A little monk like you actually had a birthday banquet? What were the conditions in your temple? Little Jingkong sighed again. The capital is too far away. I'm afraid I won't be able to see Master this year. Gu Jiao imagined a white-haired old monk hobbling to the capital with a walking stick. Well, it was indeed too cruel. He couldn't come. Gu Jiao squatted down and looked at him gently. You can celebrate your birthday with your brother-in-law this year. The two of them were in sync and looked at each other with disdain. Gu Jiao said again, although you can't see your master, you can write a letter to him. Little Jingkong patted his little head. Right, why didn't I think of that? Little Jingkong did as he said. That night, he wrote a long letter to his master. The first sentence expressed his deep longing for his master, and the next 99 sentences were all bragging and showing off. Thus was the completion of a serious and sincere letter to home. Xiao Lulang said that he would mail it to his master. He was still worried and insisted on sending it himself. Xiao Lulang had to skip the self-study class at the directorate the next day, and took him to a distant post house to send the letter. The post house officer received the letter, and was about to put it into the mailbox. Little Jingkong asked, Is it sent to you, Zhou? The post house officer said, Yes. Little Jingkong asked again, Can you tell me the address? The post house officer was speechless. The post house officer read the address out loud. Baiyun Temple, Mount Damong, Qingchuan Town, Ping City. Yes, that's right. Little Jingkong nodded solemnly. Is it urgent? The post house officer said. An ordinary letter can't be sent. It's urgent. Little Jingkong widened his eyes and said, But it's not an ordinary letter. It was a letter to his master that was full of longing, only one sentence. Life discussion, bragging about his height, and academic exchange, bragging about his many first places. The post house was especially busy at the end of the year. It was because little Jingkong was too cute that the post house officer patiently talked to him. But now, the post house officer's patience ran out. Do you want to send it or not? He asked. If it's not urgent, I won't send it. Little Jing Kong decisively took the letter. The post house officer was speechless. Xiao Luling face-bombed. Didn't he just tell the little guy an urgent story not long ago? Because he sent the information in time, he won the battle. Little Clear Sky had no concept of the specific speed and operation of an 800-mile express mail, but he felt that these few words sounded very awesome, so he also sent an 800-mile express mail. Xiao Luling reached out his hand. Give me the letter, I'll send you an urgent message. Are you for real? Little Jing Kong looked doubtful. Xiao Luling nodded. Really, I guarantee that the letter you send will be an urgent message. Little Jing Kong looked serious. You can't lie to me, Xiao Luling said seriously. If I lie to you, I'm a dog. Little Jing Kong actually didn't quite understand the meaning of this sentence. Why did the bad brother-in-law become Little 8 when he lied to him? Little 8 was obviously so good, but he still gave the letter to the bad brother-in-law. Xiao Luling walked back to the post house officer, asked for a writing brush, and wrote a big urgent message on the envelope. Then he asked for a big envelope and put Little Jing Kong's letter inside. The post house officer silently gave him a thumbs up. Awesome. After sending the letter, Xiao Luling took Little Jing Kong home. After taking 2 steps, Little Jing Kong clamped his legs and jumped up. I want to pee. Xiao Luling took Little Jing Kong to the toilet of the post house. After Little Jing Kong finished peeing, he came out to look for someone. However, he walked in the wrong direction and bumped into a man's leg. Back then, a certain little monk tried to blackmail Gu Jiao in this way. Little Jing Kong fell to the ground. The man slowly reached out and helped him up. It was a simple action, but it was full of elegance and nobility. Little Jing Kong looked up at the man. He was wearing a heavy purple fox fur coat. He was tall, handsome, and his face was like ice jade. Time didn't leave many traces on his face. He was handsome and tall, and his aura was as heavy as the mountains and rivers. Little Jing Kong was stunned. It took him a while to remember that he bumped into the man. He apologized seriously. I'm sorry. It's okay, he said lightly. Well, I'll go then. Little Jing Kong walked away. The man turned and walked to the carriage. The 8 guards saluted in unison. Marquis. Digression ding. Your Marquis Xianping is online. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_89642826/114360623. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 164. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found on the internet can be found here. Marquis Xianping warmed his hands with the fox fur and got into the carriage. Just by looking at his indifferent and elegant demeanor, it was very difficult to associate him with a rank 1 martial marquis who was able to strategize and decide victory from 1,000 miles away. Let's go back, he ordered. The carriage started to move. The horses in Marquis Xianping's mansion were Fergana horses that could travel thousands of miles in a day. Their momentum alone was enough to scare the horses on the roadside. The cold wind blew and the canopy fluttered. Marquis Xianping sat in the carriage with his eyes closed. However, he felt something and frowned slightly. He opened his eyes and said, "Stop the carriage." The carriage stopped. Marquis Xianping lifted the curtain and looked back. Other than an inconspicuous carriage, there was nothing else. "Marquis? What's wrong?" a guard asked. He put down the curtain suspiciously and said, "Nothing. Let's go back." Yes. The carriage gradually went away. This time it didn't stop. After a long time, Xiao Luling finally let go of Little Jing Kong behind the carriage that Marquis Xianping had seen. Little Jing Kong immediately jumped 3 feet away and looked at his bad brother-in-law angrily. Why did you keep holding me? Why didn't you let me get into the carriage and covered my mouth? Do you want to do something to me? Xiao Lulang withdrew his distant gaze and looked at little Jing Kong, who was bristling with anger. Where did you learn those words? Don't use them. Little Jing Kong stamped his feet and said, You were wrong first. Why do you care where I learned them? Humph. I'm going back to complain to Jiao Jiao. Xiao Lulang looked in the direction of the carriage again, and then took little Jing Kong to the carriage that he hired from the market. On the way back, Xiao Lulang was very silent. Although Xiao Lulang was a man of few words, little Jing Kong still faintly felt that there was something wrong with his bad brother-in-law's state. Bad brother-in-law was like this the first time he saw young master. This time, it seemed to be more serious than last time. Was he hiding from someone he knew? Little Jing Kong crossed his arms and fell into deep thought. About half an hour later, the carriage arrived at Clearwater Alley. Little Jing Kong rushed down. Jiao 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 Jiao. I'm back. She was still a child after all. She could easily forget what was on her mind. Today Feng Lin and Lin Qingye also came over. It was mainly because Lin Qingye wanted to come. It's almost time for the spring imperial examination. Steward, let me bribe mistress. Lin Qingye said slowly to Gu Jiao as he hugged a few large boxes of local specialties. If Xiao Lulang was his teacher, then Gu Jiao was his teacher's wife. She was even younger than him. To prevent himself from stuttering, Lin Qingye spoke very slowly. He was different from normal people. However, Gu Jiao did not show any surprise. She calmly took the things from him and said, Thank you. Come in and have a seat. Lin Qingye felt that his teacher's wife was a good person. Very good. Gu Jiao brought the snacks she made. Lin Qingye took a bite and stared at her. Delicious. Delicious. He was so excited that he stuttered. His face instantly flushed red, and he was so embarrassed that he wanted to crawl into a hole. Gu Jiao's expression did not change. She passed the plate forward and said, There are more at home. I'll pack 2 boxes for you later. Lin Qingye secretly breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, he could no longer hide the fact that he stuttered. Not everyone was hostile to him. Many of them sympathized with him. However, he did not need sympathy. He hoped that he could be treated as a normal person. Gu Jiao's attitude made Lin Qingye feel more comfortable than ever. Xiao Lulang was the same. However, Xiao Lulang was a strict teacher. Lin Qingye was very afraid of him. He felt more comfortable in front of Gu Jiao. You're not going back for the new year, right? Gu Jiao asked. Lin Qingye nodded. The spring examination is coming soon. My father, let me study in the capital. The Lin family was very generous. They bought a house near the Imperial College for him to spend the new year. It was not too far from Jadewater Lane. Feng Lin also stayed at the Imperial College. They usually stayed in the same dormitory. Seeing that the holidays were coming, Lin Qingye did not want to leave Feng Lin alone in the cold Imperial College. Thus he invited Feng Lin to stay at his place. I'll go. That's not a good idea. I have to tell Lulang. The main reason was that Feng Lin felt that Xiao Lulang would let him stay here, and not trouble Lin Qingye. Of course, he was more inclined to stay here. After all, Jiao Nyang's cooking was better. Lin Qingye said, I've told Lulang. He agrees. You go. Feng Lin, who was suddenly abandoned by his brother, was speechless. Last year's New Year's Eve was a little sloppy. First, Gu Jiao had just arrived. She was still in a daze and had not completely adapted to her new identity. Well, actually, she was poor. Second, she was poor. This year, she was not so poor. She earned a lot from Lin Qingye. What she earned in the county town was invested in her business. What she earned in the capital was invested in her medical center. However, Xiao Lulang did not only have one business with Lin Qingye. Occasionally he wrote articles and poems for others. Surprisingly, he earned 100 taels of silver. 100 taels of silver was not a small amount. It was enough to buy a house in the county town. He took out 30 taels of silver to pay little Jing Kong's rent for this month. The remaining 70 taels were given to Gu Jiao for her household expenses. After little Jing Kong received the rent, he stayed in the study and did not leave. Xiao Luleng looked at him indifferently. What's wrong? The amount is wrong? Little Jing Kong was very conflicted. On one hand, he did not want his bad brother-in-law to lie to him. After all, it was the first time he sent an urgent letter. He was looking forward to it. On the other hand, he hoped that his bad brother-in-law lied to him. That way, his bad brother-in-law would become Little Ba. Then he would be able to squash his bad brother-in-law. Little Jing Kong looked at his bad brother-in-law with a complicated expression. He did not say anything and quietly went out. Little Jing Kong was not very clingy with Xiao Luleng. Usually, unless it was necessary, such as learning a foreign language, he would not come to Xiao Luleng's study. Today, Little Jing Kong came to peek from time to time. Xiao Luleng was puzzled. Little Jing Kong was even more puzzled. Why hadn't his bad brother-in-law turned into Little Ba? Little Jing Kong's heart was tilting. For the first time, he hoped that his bad brother-in-law lied to him. He could not wait to squash his bad brother-in-law, who had turned into Little Ba. After the last day of classes, the Imperial College was also on holiday. The next day, Xiao Luleng did not have to go to school. He decided to go to the market with Gu Jiao to buy some New Year goods. In order to buy New Year goods, the couple woke up earlier than usual. When Little Jing Kong opened his eyes, Xiao Luleng was no longer in bed. He first went to the study to search. Then he went to the front and back courtyards. After that, he went to Gu Jiao, Gu Xiaoshan, Gu Yan's rooms and even the old lady's room. In the end, he concluded that his bad brother-in-law was really gone. Coincidentally, Little Ba ran over while wagging his tail. Little Jing Kong's eyes instantly lit up. They had already bought most of the groceries for the new year. This time, they mainly bought some snacks and things to pass the time. Do you want to buy firecrackers? Xiao Luleng asked. Do we still need to buy firecrackers? Gu Jiao was puzzled. They planted bamboo in the front courtyard. She could cut it down and make firecrackers herself. However, she had never thought about firecrackers before. She still had the mindset from her previous life. She thought that firecrackers were prohibited in the capital. Gu Jiao said, buy some red paper to write couplets and cut the window flowers. Xiao Luleng nodded. Okay. The red paper in the capital looked better than the red paper in the county. Gu Jiao bought more. Xiao Luleng reminded her, you don't have to paste couplets for Xue Ningxiang's house this year. The red paper last year was given by Feng Lin. Gu Jiao asked Xiao Luleng to send a set of couplets and some window flowers to Xue Ningxiang's house after he finished writing them. Gu Jiao suddenly missed Xue Ningxiang. She paused and said, but granduncle is here. Granduncle's house has to paste couplets. Xiao Luleng thought, are you addicted to having relatives? After they finished shopping, they went back to Qingshui Alley. As soon as they entered the backyard, Xiao Luleng saw Little Jing Kong riding on a small bench in the backyard. Gu Yan's puppy was in front of him. Little Jing Kong put on his tiger head shoes and vest for Little Eight. He even took a comb and a headband to tie Little Eight's hair. Of course, he did not tie Little Eight's hair very well. So he went next door to ask his son-in-law to tie Little Eight's hair. He was only in charge of Little Eight now. Zao Zao was very proud of himself. Little Jing Kong did not like playing with dogs so much in the past. However, he was still a kid. He had a different idea every day. It was not strange for him to be so imaginative. Xiao Luleng was about to leave when he heard Little Jing Kong calling out to Little Eight in a flirtatious tone. Ahung, Xiao Luleng's body froze. In the end, Little Jing Kong still saw Xiao Luleng. However, he had already determined that Little Eight was his bad brother-in-law. So, was the bad brother-in-law who appeared at the door Little Eight? Little Jing Kong hesitated for a while. He suddenly raised his head and barked at Xiao Luleng. Xiao Luleng. Xiao Luleng. It's so early in the morning. What's wrong with you? Little Jing Kong sighed. He did not know how to bark. He was not Little Eight. Sigh. He was quite disappointed. Little Jing Kong was forced to accept that his bad brother-in-law was still a human for the time being. Xiao Luleng was confused. What was going on? Just because he didn't bark with him early in the morning, he was disappointed in him? He didn't even blame him for changing the dog's name. Gu Jiao went to the kitchen to make breakfast. After breakfast, Gu Jiao went to clean up the dishes. Xiao Luleng said, I'll do it. The old lady said arrogantly, "No need. You do what you need to do. Someone else will do it." That person was the old chancellor. After being robbed of his private money and his house seized, the old chancellor started his days of being ruthlessly exploited by the old lady. There were many things to do at home. Gu Jiao did not go to the clinic these days. However, there was a small patient who had been stitched up on Vermilion Bird Avenue. Today was the day for her to remove the stitches. Gu Jiao packed up the small basket and went out. Xiao Lulang looked at her. "Are you going out?" Gu Jiao nodded. "A house call." Since she could no longer hide her medical skills, Gu Jiao decided not to hide it anymore. "Is it far?" Xiao Lulang asked. "Vermilion Bird Avenue," Gu Jiao said. "I'm going there to deliver something. Let's go together." Xiao Lulang wrote a few articles for a rich young master from the Imperial College. He promised to deliver them to the young master's house before New Year's Eve. Gu Jiao had no objection. Vermilion Bird Avenue was quite far. They hired a carriage. Xiao Lulang sent Gu Jiao to the clinic first. Then he went to deliver the articles. When he came back, he picked up Gu Jiao and went home. Gu Jiao's small patient was 6 years old. She was a lively little girl. It was said that it was because of her character that she fell down from the stairs and cut her leg. Her older sister was a student at the women's school. She heard that the medical skills of the Miracle Hands Hall were good, so she went to the Miracle Hands Hall. "The wound is recovering very well. Don't be afraid. It doesn't hurt." Gu Jiao took a pair of scissors and removed the stitches. The little girl didn't say anything. The woman asked, "Does it hurt?" The little girl shook her head and looked at Gu Jiao with admiration. "It doesn't hurt. Older sister is very good. Mother, when I grow up, I also want to be a doctor." The woman was surprised. Doctors. In Zhao country, their status was actually very low. Needless to say, female doctors had the status of a servant. They lived in Vermilion Bird Avenue, so they weren't ordinary people. How could they be willing to let their daughter become a lowly female doctor? The little girl in front of her. Was it because her family was poor that she had to become a female doctor? Not every patient was like her daughter, who was injured on the leg. Some lesions occurred in unclean places. How could a person of noble status go to those places? Moreover, she heard that when the clinic was busy, the female doctor had to treat men. Wouldn't her innocence be gone? How could she get married in the future? Any family that paid attention to details wouldn't send their daughter to be a female doctor. Gu Jiao didn't look at the embarrassment on the woman's face. Instead, she pinched the little girl's face and said softly, "It's not easy to be a doctor. You have to be literate, study, diligent, and willing to endure hardships. If you make a bad dish, you just miss out on a meal. If you treat someone wrongly, you'll lose a life. The responsibility is very heavy." The little girl seemed to understand. She thought of something and lowered her head. She weakly asked, "But they say that female doctors are lowly." Gu Jiao said lightly, "Born as a human, how can there be lowly?" The woman suddenly blushed with shame. She looked down on female doctors. But at this moment, her heart was deeply shocked. She couldn't tell if it was because of the words that came out of the other's mouth, or the belief in the other's eyes. Digression. I've been frantically writing for the past few days. I'll reply in a few days. Good night. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114330463. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 165. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. When Gu Jiao walked out of the house, Xiao Lulang was not there yet. Coincidentally, diagonally across the street was a shop that sold sugar-coated haws. This was where she saw Gu Yan and Gu Changqing last time. The sugar-coated haws they bought were beautiful, clean and varied. Gu Jiao walked over and said, "Boss, give me 3 sticks of sugar-coated haws, 1 stick of sugar-coated tangerine, and 1 stick of sugar-coated yam eggs." Sugar-coated yam eggs were little Jing Kong's favorite. They were round, sticky, and did not require the core to be spat out. The boss smiled and said, "Okay, miss. That will be 100 copper coins." The prices in the capital were really high. In the county, a stick of sugar-coated haws only cost 3 to 4 copper coins. The roadside stalls in the capital cost 10 copper coins, but this shop doubled the price. However, there were more sugar-coated haws in the capital, and it was close to the end of the year. Gu Jiao felt relieved. She paid the money, wrapped the sugar-coated haws in paper, and put them in her basket. Gu Jiao felt that it was not a bad idea to wait for Xiao Lulang here. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, she sensed that someone was watching her. In her previous life, if she could not discover that she was being watched, she would have died 800 times. Gu Jiao turned her head. The other party did not expect Gu Jiao's intuition to be so sharp. He did not have time to hide and could only quickly disappear into the crowd. Gu Jiao thought that he had left, so she ignored him. Xiao Lulang could come over at any time, and she did not want to miss him. Unexpectedly, the other party did not give up. After a while, he pushed open a window on the second floor of an inn, drew his bow, and aimed at Gu Jiao. He even used his bow. It seemed that he was really determined to die. Gu Jiao said to the owner of the Tonghulu shop, "Boss, if a good-looking young man comes to find me in a while, the best kind, ask him to wait for me here." The best-looking? The boss was a little confused. "Miss, your tone is a bit big. I've been running a shop here for more than 20 years, and I've seen the royal family. What kind of person is the most beautiful? Could he be prettier than a member of the royal family?" The royal bloodline of Zhao country was pretty good. First of all, the emperor was very good-looking. The concubines he married into the palace were all great beauties. How could the princes and princesses they gave birth to not be good-looking? The boss didn't take it to heart. After all, if someone came to ask about her later, he would just tell them the truth. Gu Jiao entered the inn opposite. "Miss, would you like to eat or stay?" A waiter came up to her. Gu Jiao ignored him and walked up to the second floor. The layout of this inn was a little complicated, with many twists and turns. But Gu Jiao's sense of space was very good. In an instant, she calculated that it was the 3rd room on the left in the east corridor. Gu Jiao entered the room. That person slipped away quickly, and actually climbed up to the roof from the window. Gu Jiao leaned half of her body out of the window and looked up. She grabbed the window frame with one hand and jumped up to the roof. This time, she finally saw the person's appearance. It was a man. He was dressed in black. Gu Jiao tiptoed and picked up a tile. She lifted her leg and kicked the tile at the person. That person didn't expect that Gu Jiao could use such a move while chasing someone. He couldn't dodge in time and was knocked down to the roof by the huge impact of the tile. Gu Jiao heard a crisp sound of collision, as if something iron had hit the roof tiles. It was that person's face. That person was wearing an iron mask. Gu Jiao had already guessed who he was. The #1 bandit in the capital, Flying Frost. Gu Jiao narrowed her eyes and chased after him in a few steps. It was too late to get up and run. That person looked around and rolled down from the edge of the roof. Oh, he had some brains. He was much better than those idiots in the dojo. It had been a long time since she met an opponent who could give her a second move. Gu Jiao's lips curled up in a wicked smile. Below was the courtyard of a brothel. Gu Jiao jumped down. The music in the brothel masked the person's footsteps and breathing. It was difficult for a normal person to determine the person's exact location. But Gu Jiao was the organization's #1 agent, who could accurately identify the person's footsteps from more than 100 different sounds. When she passed by a small cubicle with a curtain, she suddenly reached out and pulled a black shadow out of the cubicle. She slammed the shadow to the ground. That person groaned and felt that his brain was about to scatter. What was this girl's background? Her skills had improved a lot. But he was not someone to be trifled with. He had been careless just now, but he would not be careless now. He threw out a packet of powder, and used the powder as cover to escape into the corridor. There were only a few people who had escaped from Gu Jiao's hands in her previous life. It seemed that he had not recovered his strength from his previous life. Gu Jiao chased after him and entered a dark basement. That person seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Strange. Where did he go? Also, wasn't this a brothel? Why was there such a big basement? Was it a storage room or, while she was thinking, footsteps came from the entrance. Gu Jiao hid behind a large cabinet. Someone walked in with an oil lamp. With the weak light of the lamp, Gu Jiao could see the scene clearly. This was not an ordinary basement. There were 2 rooms in total. The one outside seemed to be a place to receive guests, and the one she was standing in looked like a storage room. There were 2 young women in total. One of them was holding the lamp, while the other lifted the curtain to look into the storage room. It seemed that this was a routine inspection, but she knew that there would be no one in the storage room. So she did not go in. She put down the curtain and said to the other person, "Light the food and serve the tea." Okay. That person lit the lamp. Because the light outside was very bright, Gu Jiao's room was very dark. It was more convenient for her to hide. After the 2 of them tidied up the tea room, a woman wearing a light blue curtain and white clothes came in. The woman's face was covered, but her figure was tall and graceful. Her hands were slender and delicate. She was obviously a daughter of a wealthy family. After she entered the room, she gestured to the 2 maids. The 2 of them tactfully retreated. She was the only one left in the large tea room. Gu Jiao was hesitating whether or not she should openly walk out. Just then, a man wearing a heavy purple fur coat walked in. From Gu Jiao's point of view, the man was too tall. His eyebrows, nose, and mouth were all blocked by the door frame of the storage room. Only his delicate chin could be seen. The man sat down across from the woman. This time, Gu Jiao could not see him at all. The other side of the table was Gu Jiao's blind spot. The only person Gu Jiao could see was the woman wearing the curtain. But with the curtain covering her, everything about her was faintly discernible. "You've returned to the capital. Is the princess well?" the woman asked. Although Gu Jiao could not see her expression, she could hear the respect in her voice. If this woman's voice was in her previous life, it would be considered a heavenly sound. The man across from her spoke. His voice was neither fast nor slow, deep and reserved. "She is well. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness." "Her Highness the Princess? Your Highness?" It seemed that these 2 people had powerful backgrounds, and they were meeting in this kind of place. Their whereabouts could not be known to outsiders. Gu Jiao, so they were waiting for her here? They went through so much trouble to lure her here just to have her clash with these 2 important people, so that they could use them to silence her? She just did not know where that guy was hiding. The woman spoke again. "I'm relieved to hear that the princess is well." The man said, "Your Highness called me out. Is there something you need?" The woman sighed and said, "Empress, it sounds strange. You should call me Linlang like before." The man said, "This subject does not dare." Gu Jiao thought. Although he said that he did not dare, his aura was clearly higher than the sky and wider than the sea. The woman did not continue to force him. Instead, she pushed a bundle on the table in front of the man. "Actually, it's nothing much. It's just that New Year's Eve is approaching. With my current status, it's not convenient for me to pay respects to him. Please help me burn these joss paper and incense sticks for him." "Your Highness is too kind." The man's voice was emotionless. The woman looked at him. "Do you blame me?" The man said, "Your Highness worries too much." The woman said sadly, "I'm very sorry that I couldn't call you father as I wished in this life. However, in my heart, you are the same as my father. In fact, I respect you even more." The man said, "Your Highness is too serious." She was most afraid of the atmosphere suddenly becoming awkward. The man did not seem to like to talk, so when the woman did not speak, the room became quiet. Suddenly, The woman lowered her head and coughed a few times. The man finally took the initiative to speak. Your Highness, are you feeling unwell? The woman shook her head. It's nothing. It's just a cold. The man said, Your Highness must take care of your body. The woman nodded. I will. Gu Jiao could still hear the man's concern for the woman. Speaking of the body, I thought of something. The woman said thoughtfully. Ever since His Majesty and the first prince returned from their southern tour, they never set foot in the imperial harem again. I heard that during their southern tour, they encountered an immortal Taoist priest. That Taoist priest taught His Majesty the art of immortality. He requested His Majesty to burn incense and pray every day and not approach women for 2 years. Even Imperial Mother has not seen His Majesty for a long time. The man said, Your Highness means, the woman said. I suspect that the Taoist priest was arranged by the first prince. This southern tour is not simple. The man said, I understand. I will send someone to investigate that Taoist priest. It's getting late. If there's nothing else, this subject will take his leave. The woman stood up and bowed to the man like a junior. The man returned the courtesy of a subject. After that, the man left the underground tea room. The woman sat in the tea room for a while and planned to leave. However, at this moment, something unexpected happened. With a loud bang, the entire basement's roof cracked open and collapsed. Crown Princess. Accompanied by the screams of the maids on the ground, the Crown Princess was buried under the ruins. And buried with her was Gu Jiao, who was in the storage room. Digression, there's one more chapter, 8 o'clock. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114326937. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 166. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. Thank you, Brother Xiao. I can finally have a good new year. I'll look for you next time. A supervisor of the Imperial College sent Xiao Lulang out of the residence. This person was Feng Lin's classmate. He was 1 year younger than Xiao Lulang and had gotten in through the back door. His literary talent was not very good, but during the holidays, there were many relatives at home, so they would always call him over. With Xiao Lulang's poems, he was not afraid that he would not be able to answer. Xiao Lulang wrote the poems according to his standards. They were not too exaggerated, nor were they too cheap. Wait a moment. Xiao Lulang did not let the other party send him off. He left the residence by himself. The sky was gloomy and seemed to be colder than before. Xiao Lulang sat in the carriage and went to the house where Gu Jiao was visiting. When the woman saw him, she said to him, "That person has already left." She said she was going to buy candied haws across the street. As she spoke, she pointed at the sugar shop diagonally across the street. This was an old sugar shop. It was opened by people from Jiangnan. The business in the capital was unexpectedly good. Xiao Lulang often came here when he was young, but at that time, their family did not sell candied haws. When Xiao Lulang arrived at the shop, he found that the boss had changed. The original boss was old and enjoyed a comfortable life in the backyard. Now the one who came out to do business was his son. "Boss." Xiao Lulang greeted him. Just as he was about to ask if Gu Jiao had come, he heard the other party shout, "Are you looking for someone?" Xiao Lulang was slightly startled. Was it written on his face that he was looking for someone? The boss hadn't taken Gu Jiao's words to heart, but when he saw Xiao Lulang, he couldn't help but think of Gu Jiao's words. "If a good-looking young man comes to find me in a while, the best-looking kind, Ask him to wait for me here. To put it in an arrogant way, this was what the scholars meant when they said, a stranger like Jade, a young master unparalleled in the world. It was indeed too beautiful. He was so good-looking that people felt that this person should only exist in the heavens. How do you know? Xiao Lulang asked. The boss chuckled and told him what Gu Jiao had said. Best looking? Was that what she said about herself? Xiao Liulang's lips curled into a smile that even he himself didn't notice. After a while he looked at the boss and asked, did she say what she was going to do? The boss shook his head. He didn't say that. How long have they been gone? Xiao Lulang asked. The boss thought for a bit. It's been a while. My candied haws are almost sold out. Xiao Liulang's brows slightly knit. The two of them had known each other for so long, but she had never made him wait. Xiao Lulang couldn't think of where she would go or what she would be doing. Why wouldn't she come back at this late hour? There was a faint trace of uneasiness in his heart. He looked at the boss. Did you see which direction she went? The boss pointed. It seems to be that inn. Xiao Lulang went to the inn. As soon as he entered the lobby, he heard two diners talking. Did you hear? Something happened at the Breeze Entertainment House. You mean that newly opened entertainment house? What happened? It seems like the house collapsed. It used to be a wine cellar. There were too many holes dug in the ground. I knew it would collapse sooner or later. The uneasiness in Xiao Liulang's heart became more and more obvious. Was someone trapped inside? Yes, I heard it was a woman. Xiao Lulang had never heard of the Breeze Entertainment House before, but when they mentioned the wine cellar, he understood. There used to be a wine cellar on this street. It had changed hands many times and had always been selling wine. After not seeing it for a few years, it had become an entertainment house? Xiao Lulang walked towards the Breeze Entertainment House. From far away, he could see that the entertainment house was surrounded by commoners. It seemed that something had happened, and it was a major matter. Even the yamen had come. The yamen had sealed off the scene, so the commoners could only stand on their tiptoes to look. The entertainment house was in chaos. All the guests had been driven out, leaving only the Crown Prince Consort's two maids, the yamen's owner, and the entertainment house's owner. The owner knew that the person buried below was the Crown Prince Consort, but the yamen did not. After all, the Crown Prince Consort was traveling incognito today. If people knew that she had come to an inconspicuous entertainment house, it would be hard to avoid speculation. If people saw that person, the Crown Prince Consort would not be able to explain herself. Although the two of them were not enemies and did not have a shady relationship, a monarch was a monarch, and a subject was a subject. They should not have a private relationship. Mayday said, hurry and save her. It's too dangerous down there. We can't let our madam keep burying her head down there. The yamen called the owner over. What's down there? The owner said. It was originally a wine cellar, but I changed it into a basement. It's usually used for storage. The yamen asked. There's only one basement? What's over there? The owner answered. There's also a basement over there. It's very small and is used to store miscellaneous items. The yamen looked at the messy scene. Is there anyone in the small storage room? Mayday said impatiently, why would there be anyone there? She had checked it, okay? Maybe pulled on her sleeve, indicating that she had spilled the beans. She coughed lightly and said, stop dilly-dallying. My madam is feeling terrible down there. She can't even speak. Didn't you hear? She was almost unable to speak, which meant that she could speak. That's right, although she was buried underground, she was not injured. She could even move a little. Gu Jiao's situation in the small storage room was much worse than hers. There were two stone slabs that formed a horn sandwiching her in the middle. The large stone slab was on top of the horn. Due to the weight of the stone slab, the two small stone slabs were pressing to the side. The horn was growing bigger. When it became flat, the large stone slab on top would completely press down on her, causing her brain to splatter all over the floor. This large stone slab had one end on Gu Jiao's side, and the other end on the Crown Prince Consort side. It was too difficult and time-consuming to lift them all up. The best method was to lift one end and rescue the crown prince consort. But this way, the small storage room over there would be completely crushed. The yaman said. If you're sure there's no one there, you can start lifting the stone slab. Wait. Xiao Luleng walked in with his walking stick. The yaman's brows creased. Who let him in? The guards guarding the door were helpless. They did not pay much attention to him because he was a cripple, who knew that he would come in by himself in the blink of an eye. Xiao Luleng said seriously, "There's someone down there." Mayday said, "You're talking nonsense. There's clearly no one." Xiao Luleng said coldly, "Listen if you don't believe me." The yaman indicated for everyone to be quiet. He squatted down and put his ear to the ground to listen. There really was a tinkling sound. It sounded like small stones were being knocked against the wall. It was very weak. The yaman was hesitant. Since there was someone down there, this method was exchanging a life for a life. It was too cruel. Mayday said, "What are you waiting for? Hurry and save her." It was getting late. If they delayed any longer, not only would the crown prince consort be injured, the palace would also become suspicious. The yaman said with a sigh, "Miss, it's not that we don't want to save her, but there are two people down there. If we rashly try to save her, we might crush one of them to death." The two maids exchanged glances. That small storage room was so secretive that there shouldn't be anyone there. If there was, then it had to be a spy waiting there to deal with the crown prince consort. It would be best to crush this kind of person to death. It would save them from ruining the crown prince consort's reputation. Mayday said, "Who said that there's definitely someone down there? Maybe it's some random cat or dog." If you don't believe me, you can ask the hall master if anyone has been to that small storage room. The hall master naturally said no. The yaman was troubled. Judging from the rhythmic knocking sound, it was unlikely that it was a random cat or dog. It was most likely a person, and a person in a rather dangerous situation. "Then do you have a better idea?" Mayday asked. The yaman was even more troubled. Of course he didn't. Mayday pinched her fingers and quietly discussed with her companion. In the end, she decided to reveal her identity as someone from the Eastern Palace. She took out her token. When the yaman saw the Eastern Palace token, he was so frightened that he fell to his knees. Mayday said, "I'll tell you the truth. The person down there is someone from the Eastern Palace. If you dare to let anything happen to her in your hands, I promise you that the crown prince will have all of you buried with her." From her tone, the other party's status in the Eastern Palace was not low. She could be a favored concubine, or a lover, or even. The yaman didn't dare to think any further. One was the young mistress of the Eastern Palace, the other was a commoner. It went without saying who should be saved. The yaman ordered people to prepare a rope to hang the crown prince consort from the stone slab. Xiao Liulong's eyes turned cold. "What do you want to do? Do you not care about the other person's life or death?" In reality, he wasn't sure if the person down there was Gu Jiao. What if it was? He didn't dare to gamble on that. What if? The yaman said sincerely, "Little brother, I know you have a good heart, but the person down there is someone from the imperial family. We can't afford to pay for the lives of people from the imperial family." Xiao Luleng had heard similar words more than once, but it was only at this moment that he truly understood the importance of status. Sometimes, even if you don't fight for it, you won't be able to live peacefully. Because he was not standing tall enough, no one heard what little Jing Kong said. Because he did not stand high enough, Gu Jiao's life was not as important as the people of the Eastern Palace. Xiao Luleng clenched his fists bit by bit. His eyes turned red, and his heart turned cold. The other side had already tied the rope, and was ready to lift the stone slab. Xiao Luleng suddenly threw away his walking stick, jumped, and slid down through the gap between the stone slabs. The officer was shocked. "What are you doing? You're crazy. It was very dangerous down there. Get up here. Stop, stop, stop. Stop." The yaman runners who were carrying the stone slabs stopped. Mayday was furious. "What are you stopping for? Who told you to stop? He was courting death. Why do you care about him? Didn't he know it was dangerous?" They were in cahoots. They wanted to murder the Crown Prince's people. Are you all in cahoots with them? With such a big accusation, who would care about the life and death of two ordinary people? However, Xiao Lulang turned his head to glance at the officers through the gap, and said coldly. Everyone froze. On the busy street, a seemingly inconspicuous carriage was moving at a leisurely pace. Marquis Xianping and Steward Lu were sitting in the carriage. Steward Lu had just met the Marquis and got into his carriage. Marquis Xianping said lightly, "How's it going?" Steward Lu smiled guiltily. When he left the capital, he had boasted that he would bring the illegitimate child back for the new year. Now it was New Year's Eve, but the illegitimate child did not even want to admit his identity. Marquis Xianping said carelessly, "Just tell me if you failed." Steward Lu said embarrassedly, "I know who he is, but the young master may be brooding about what happened in the past, so he doesn't want to come back." "Yes," Marquis Xianping said lightly, and no one could tell whether he was happy or angry. "If he doesn't want to come back, then forget it." Marquis Xianping did not like to force people to do things. Steward Lu broke out in cold sweat. Good, he was not punished. Marquis Xianping usually did not punish servants. People who first came to the residence would think that this marquis was different from the rumors. He was very lenient and did not get angry with servants. That was because the people who made the marquis angry were all dead. The people who survived had not angered the marquis. The marquis was actually a bit temperamental. He could be talking and laughing with people one second, and the next second, he would chop them up with a knife. Of course, the marquis was very lenient in most things. After all, if he did not have that tolerance, he would not be in his current position. Marquis. A personal guard came over on horseback. Marquis Xianping looked up. Steward Lu understood and had the carriage stop. Marquis Xianping opened the curtain. "What is it?" "Something happened to the Crown Princess. Not long after you left, the basement of the brothel collapsed. The Crown Princess was buried below. In addition, there was another person buried in the storage room." There was someone in the storage room. This was a very important piece of information. It meant that the meeting between Marquis Xianping and the Crown Princess was likely to have been discovered by the other party. Marquis Xianping's expression did not change. Steward Lu, on the other hand, became worried. The personal guard continued. The two people were pressed down by the same large stone slab. The officials could not lift them and could only choose to lift the stone slab. To save one, they would have to crush the other. The Crown Princess's maid revealed her identity as the Eastern Palace. The officials decided to save the Crown Princess. At this time, a scholar jumped down and said to the officials. At this point, the personal guard glanced at Marquis Xianping and hesitated. Marquis Xianping said indifferently, "What? This matter is related to this marquis?" The personal guard said embarrassedly, "That scholar said that the other person buried underground was you, Marquis." Digression. It's the end of the month. Don't waste your monthly votes. We will continue tomorrow. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/114326480. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. Chapter 167. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. The officials don't dare to move now. They sent someone to our residence to verify with you. Steward Lu was dumbfounded. Did this scammer run into Marquis Xianping? Which student was so daring? He actually cursed Marquis Xianping to be buried under the ground? Wasn't he afraid that Marquis Xianping would kill his entire family? The last person who dared to use Marquis Xianping's name to swindle people was already 2 meters tall in his grave. Marquis Xianping sneered. Interesting, interesting. Chang Jing. A guard in black rode over. Marquis Xianping said, go save people. Steward Lu was puzzled. Marquis, who are you saving? Marquis Xianping couldn't help but laugh. Isn't this Marquis buried under the ruins? Why aren't you saving me? Chang Jing solemnly replied. Yes. Marquis Xianping said. Take a look at who that kid is. Chang Jing led 3 guards in the direction of the brothel. Steward Lu didn't quite understand his Marquis's actions. You're worried that the crown princess won't be able to hold on for long, so you're hurriedly sending them to save people, right? Chang Jing was the Marquis's guard with the highest martial arts skills. Marquis Xianping naturally didn't want him to save just one person. Marquis Xianping wanted Chang Jing to save everyone, including that scholar who used his name to swindle people. Steward Lu said, Marquis, that person is too daring. He actually said that the person under the stone slab was you? Io, is he cursing you to never be able to turn over? Marquis Xianping sneered. Am I someone who can't turn over after being cursed? Those old men in the imperial court, 11 out of 10 of them want me to die. Steward Lu said. It's not that exaggerated. Just 7 or 8 or 9 people. The main reason was that Marquis Xianping was too arrogant in the imperial court. He relied on His Majesty's high regard and never restrained his edge. He even openly offered bribes. When the memorial was submitted to His Majesty only reprimanded him. After all, Marquis Xianping was a meritorious minister of Zhao country. He was the one who won the battle with Qin country a few years ago. He was the one who turned the situation of Zhao country into a hostage, and turned Qin country into a prisoner. There was still a hostage of the Qin state living in the palace. Now they were paying back twice as much to the hostage as the Qin kingdom had treated Prince In, but on one hand, they wish for this marquis to die, but on the other hand, they can only pretend to be obedient in front of this marquis. Marquis Xianping looked at the endless stream of people. These days there aren't many people who dare to openly offend this marquis. This marquis is as lonely as the snow. Steward Lu. But if news of your meeting with the crown prince consort spreads. This was what Steward Lu was most worried about. Marquis Xianping said arrogantly, being cautious is my choice, not a necessity. Chang Jing arrived at the brothel with her guards. The bailiffs guarding the place didn't recognize them, but they couldn't stop them at all. Before anyone realized what was going on, Chang Jing's group of 4 each took out a shimmering iron chain and wrapped it around the 2 ends of the large stone slab. At the same time, the 4 people jumped into the air and used their strength to lift the stone slab that weighed over 1,000 kilograms. The bailiff's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Oh my God, where did these experts come from? Chang Jing's group of 4 placed the stone slab in a safe space and then started to clean up the collapsed area. It was very easy for a second collapse to occur here, so Chang Jing's group was very careful. On the other side, Xiao Lulang also passed through layers of obstacles and climbed to Gu Jiao's side. Gu Jiao's situation wasn't good. The stone slab above her head was too heavy. It pressed down on the 2 stone slabs that formed the horns, making it hard for her to breathe. Xiao Lulang heard that familiar breathing sound, and his heart tightened. Jiao Jiao, is that you? Jiao Jiao. It was very nice to hear. Gu Jiao couldn't say anything. Xiao Lulang didn't dare to move the stone slab carelessly. He touched her sleeve in the darkness and grabbed her hand. Don't be afraid. I'm not afraid. Gu Jiao held his hand back. She was lying under the stone slab. He was kneeling outside the stone slab, holding her hand the entire time. In the darkness, someone was holding her hand. This feeling wasn't bad at all. After an unknown amount of time, the large stone slab above her head was finally moved away and a dazzling light shined down. Xiao Lulang found the right angle. He held the small stone slab on the left with one hand and moved the stone slab on the right with the other. Gu Jiao was finally able to breathe smoothly. She began to gasp for air. Seeing her gasping for air, Xiao Liulang's heart, which was in his throat, finally settled down. Chang Jing and the others quickly removed the obstacles. Xiao Lulang helped Gu Jiao up and planned to take her away. However, she suddenly turned her head and looked at the collapsed wall behind her. She gasped and said, "Wait, there's another person." Because of Chang Jing and the others' intervention, the injured were quickly rescued. There were 2 girls and 2 men. One of the men was the scholar who shouted that Marquis Xianping was crushed. The other man who was rescued had already been dirted by the ruins. Therefore, the officers and the bailiffs weren't sure whether he was Marquis Xianping or not. In short, it was quite confusing. The officers wanted to record their statements, but in the end, all the parties involved had left. The terrifying masters were also gone. The officers were speechless. What kind of day was this? When Fei Shuang woke up, he was lying on a clean and soft bed. The light in the room was very dim, but there was a faint medicinal fragrance. After feeling dizzy for a while, he was sure that he wasn't dreaming. A trace of vigilance flashed through his eyes. He quickly searched for the hidden weapons on his body, but he found that none of them were left. His body was empty, and even his clothes had been cut apart by someone. He moved his body, and a tearing pain came from the left side of his abdomen. He gasped. He looked down and saw that his abdomen was wrapped in a circle of gauze. Medicine was applied to the wound. The medicinal fragrance came from there. He touched his face again. The mask was still there. Creak. The door was pushed open. He frowned warily, his whole body on the alert. The second boss walked in and looked at the bed. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Oh, you're awake? You woke up quickly. That's good. Drink the medicine. Xiao Sanzi, go get the medicine." The servant, who was originally called Xiao Liuzi but was forcibly changed by Gu Jiao to Xiao Sanzi, went to get the medicine. The medicine was already boiled and kept warm on the stove. "Here you go, second boss." Xiao Sanzi walked into the room with a bowl of steaming medicine. The second boss pointed at the cabinet at the head of the bed. "Just put it there. You can go out." "Okay." Xiao Sanzi put down the bowl of medicine and went out. He closed the door on his way out. The second boss sat down on the stool opposite the bed. He put one hand on the table and looked at him leisurely. "Why? Do you want me to feed you?" Fei Shuang looked at the medicine on the short cabinet and did not immediately take it. The second boss sighed. "Don't worry. There's no poison. I won't ruin my own reputation." Fei Shuang looked at him cautiously. "Who are you? Where is this?" The second boss said, "This is the Miracle Hall. I'm the second boss of the Miracle Hall. Next door is the girls' school." The Miracle Hall was newly opened and was not well known. The second boss would ride on the girls' school's popularity from time to time. When the girls' school was mentioned, Fei Shuang understood. He thought for a moment and said, "Why am I here?" If he remembered correctly, he was crushed under the ruins of the brothel. He also heard the officials and maids say that to save the crown princess, they sacrificed the people in the storage room. After that, he fainted. He thought that he was going to die. The second boss said proudly, "Of course it was my Xiao Gu who saved you." Because of their deep cooperation, calling her Miss Gu was too distant, but calling her little sister Gu was too cheap. Therefore, the second boss had an idea and called her Xiao Gu. Fei Shuang frowned. "Xiao Gu? Gu what? Gu Jiao?" Yes, he heard from the people in the residence that the girl was working as a medicine boy in the clinic next door to the girls' school. Wasn't she also crushed under the big stone slab? How did she save him? Also, why would she save him? Why did she save me? Fei Shuang asked. "I want to know too." The second boss weighed the bag on the table. The bag was filled with Fei Shuang's hidden weapons. "There are so many hidden weapons on you. I can tell that they're not anything good." Fei Shuang did not deny it. He was indeed not a good person. If he was, he would not be the #1 thief in the capital. So why did she save him? Regardless of whether she knew his identity or not, he had schemed against her today. He was the one who lured her to the basement of Qingfeng Pleasure House and let her discover the secret of the crown princess. However, he did not expect that the pleasure house would collapse. He was hiding in the dark wall of the storage room and was also crushed under the ruins. He did not expect that she actually guessed that he did not leave the storage room, and even saved him in the end. Did she not know that he had schemed against her? No, if she could guess that he did not leave the storage room. How stupid could she be? Fei Shuang hesitated. My injury was also caused by her. The second boss laughed. Forget it. You're not qualified for my Xiaogu to treat your injury. It was Dr. Song who treated you. He was also the one who stitched up the wound. It was the first time Dr. Song stitched up someone. Gu Jiao strongly encouraged him. Since the person was unconscious, he could do whatever he wanted. In the end, Dr. Song made a mistake the first time. He quickly took it apart and stitched it up again. The stitching was quite ugly. Cough. The second boss did not reveal this to the patient. The second boss waved his hand and walked over to pick up the medicine. All right, don't think about it. I've already asked Xiaogu for you. Fei Shuang took the medicine in a daze. Ask about what? The second boss said. Ask her why she saved you? Does she know you or does she like you? Fei Shuang choked. What nonsense are you talking about? The second boss reminded him. You know that I'm talking nonsense. I'm warning you, don't have any improper thoughts about her just because my Xiaogu saved you. She's not someone you can climb up to. Fei Shuang sneered. Climb up to that girl? He would never do that in his life. Fei Shuang looked at the second boss coldly. Why did she save me? The second boss recalled. I asked her why she saved you. She looked at you and said 2 words. Fei Shuang asked, what? The second boss said, you can take a beating. Fei Shuang was speechless. The sky gradually darkened, and the lanterns in the mansion were gradually lit. Gu Qinglin sat in the corridor and looked at the door. The servant beside him advised, Third young master, it's windy outside. You should go in first. Gu Qinglin said stubbornly, no, I want to wait for second brother. The servant sighed. I'll wait. Please go in and have a seat. I'll call you when second young master returns. Gu Qinglin was unwilling. He was the little tyrant of the mansion. Other than the old duke and crown prince Gu Changqing, no one could really control him. The servant had no choice but to get a cloak for his young master. Quickly go to the door and see if second brother is back or not. Gu Qinglin urged. Yes. I'll go now. The servant shook his head. He had lost count of how many times he had run to the door. What could he do? He was in despair too. Fortunately, he did not let the servant fail this time. He had just walked out of the courtyard when he saw second young master Gu Chengfeng. He bowed excitedly and said, Second young master, you're finally back. Third young master has been waiting for you the whole afternoon. Understood. Gu Chengfeng answered in a low voice and stepped into the courtyard. The servant scratched his head. Second young master was not very happy today. Why did he have a cold face? Second brother. Gu Qinglin finally saw Gu Chengfeng and happily stood up from his wheelchair. Although there were 3 brothers in the mansion, Gu Qinglin and second brother Gu Chengfeng got along the best. First, they were about the same age. Second, they had always lived together. Third, it was because Gu Changqing was too strict and Gu Qinglin was somewhat afraid of him. Why are you sitting here in the cold wind? Gu Qingfeng's brows furrowed. Isn't that because I'm waiting for you? Gu Qinglin pursed his lips. Speaking of which, where have you been all day? You disappeared the moment the holidays started. Did you sneak out of the mansion to play? You didn't even bring me along. I had something to do. Gu Qingfeng said casually. What is it? Gu Qinglin asked seriously. Gu Qingfeng opened his mouth, thinking about how to smooth things over when he heard Gu Qinglin shout, Second brother, why is your head so dirty? And your clothes? Your collar is full of dirt. Where did you go? Did you fight with someone? Gu Qingfeng's outer clothes were not dirty. After all, he had changed them. However, his inner clothes were at home, and he did not have time to change. Who would have thought that this younger brother of his was not good at anything and had sharp eyes? No. Gu Qingfeng denied and pushed open the door to enter the room. Gu Qinglin wanted to follow him in, but Gu Qingfeng blocked the door. I'll change my clothes. Go ahead. Gu Qinglin said. Gu Qingfeng frowned. Wait for me outside. Gu Qinglin looked at him strangely. What? He was not allowed to enter the room just to change his clothes? Gu Qingfeng had always been patient with this younger brother. However, today his mind was in a mess and he was injured. He really did not have the strength to argue with him. He closed the door and bolted it. Gu Qinglin was stunned. What are you doing? Bolting the door? After Gu Qingfeng entered the room, he could no longer support himself. He supported himself on the table with one hand and covered his chest with the other. The effects of the anesthetic had worn off. Intense pain came from his abdomen. What kind of quack stitched him up? Why was it so painful? Hiss, he sucked in a cold breath. Second brother, are you done yet? Grandmother is still waiting for us to eat. Gu Qinglin urged outside the door. Gu Qingfeng endured the pain and took off his blood-stained inner clothes. His tone was normal as he said, "Soon, don't rush me." Gu Qinglin suddenly shouted, "Big brother!" Gu Qingfeng's hand trembled. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/114300309. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.